go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to yet another ABC Transcription Tools Saturday morning webinar. I'm trying to do these kind of on a regular basis because I'm seeing a lot of people using the tools these days, and I've been doing a lot of work, particularly in the last 3 or 4 months, to really expand on the functionality of the tool, focusing more on usability than the actual ABC transcriptions parts of it. The notation and all that stuff has been pretty robust now for several months, but there are things that people want to be able to do with their tune books. They want to be able to rearrange things. They want to be able to make it easy to delete stuff. They want different kinds of output formats and all that. Let me give you a little bit of background about the whole thing, and then we'll kind of dive into it. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me. I'm in San Diego, California. I'm a traditional Irish session player. I play a number of instruments: uilleann pipes, flute, whistle, Anglo Concertina, and BC box. I play a lot of instruments. I've been doing this for a long time, since the late 90s, and actually my first traditional instrument was hammer dulcimer back in the 80s, and that eventually got me into sessions. And I was originally a woodwind player when I was a kid, and all through college I was a classical flute player, and so I was able to take up whistle and all that. And now, mostly in sessions, I'm playing mostly concertina and box these days. I kind of go through phases where I don't play the pipes as much as I used to. Mostly because we have some really, really good pipers in Southern California, and I'd rather play concertina along with somebody else playing pipes than play 2 sets of pipes against each other. So anyway, so I've been playing traditional Irish music since the late 90s, and I've been a software developer since I was in my second year of college. So I was doing software development for over something like 45 years now. And I just recently retired in December of 2023. And if any of you have been on Facebook, you've probably noticed I haven't exactly been sitting on the beach drinking margaritas. I've been working like 12 to 16 hours a day on this ABC Tools thing, mostly because I have the time now and I don't have this other company's software requirements in my head anymore. And if I need to wake up at 3 in the morning for an idea, I just go up and I make it happen. Let me give you a little bit of background about why, in the first place, I wrote these tools. First off, the ABC transcription tools are completely free. They are not something I'm doing to make money. It's something I'm doing because back in November of November of 2022, I was doing a lot of transcription work during the COVID times. I was doing a lot of transcription work for John Whalen for his weekly Taking Time session. So John would send me his whatever it is he was going to teach that week, and then I would transcribe his tunes with every ornament and everything in place, so that because he really wasn't set up to do that. And just 1 second here. Just need to launch something here. There we go. I forgot about it. I have multiple screens, and I usually have something on one screen. I forgot to put it up. Anyway, so I was doing these transcriptions for John Whalen for his weekly classes, and to do those, I was using a web-based tool, which I'm sure some of you have used in the past, which is on this site called mandolintab.net. And it was a great tool. I mean, it was really simple. You could just put your ABC on there, and then it would generate beautiful PDF files. And I would keep up a text editor in one window, and I would have the mandolintab.net site show up in another window, and that's how I worked for like multiple years, using just that site to do all my ABC stuff. Well, in November of 2022, it's like somebody forgot to pay the bills, and that site stopped working. You would put in, I remember the morning, I put in my transcription, put in my ABC, and I clicked generate PDF, and it came back and it said unauthorized. And if you can, I can show it to you today. If you go to mandolintab.net, find the ABC converter, try to do any work with it, it says unauthorized. It's like somebody has abandoned the site or hasn't updated a certificate or something on the server side. And then I realized at that point, Yeah, I mean, I've got copies of like some of the other ABC software, but I was really reliant. I was really comfortable using that software, and one of the problems with those kinds of sites is that you type in your ABC on, you go to that website, you type in your ABC, and it sends your ABC off to a server somewhere, and the server chews on it using, probably ABC to SVG and all these server side components. And when it gets all done, it gets a nice little picture and it sends it back to your web browser, and then you can do something with it. And I realized at that moment that I was completely reliant on somebody's server. Like that guy didn't, whoever it was didn't maintain their server. Some setting was wrong. Boom, I was out of business. I didn't have a tool. And I thought, this sucks. There's got to be a better way. It's like one of those commercials. There's got to be a better way. So I started going off and trying to find out what might be possible to do just entirely on the browser, not without having to rely on anybody else's server. And that's when I discovered this amazing JavaScript library called ABC.js, which some of you probably have heard of. And it's what it is it's a piece of code that actually runs in your browser, and you give it some ABC, and it gives back some notation, and it can do tablature, and it can do a lot of stuff. It's just an engine for generating visual notation, really pretty notation from ABC. And I went about looking at, and the developer is a guy named Paul Rosen, and he has some reference code, just some simple code you can use as a starting point. So I used that and some other open source projects in the world, and I started putting together this thing for my own use, just because I wanted something that I could rely on that could create the PDFs that I was doing for John. And once you start going down that path, then you start to realize, well, I want to do sets of tunes. Oh, I want to be able to transpose tunes. I need to be able to load and save tunes. I need to be able to generate tables of contents for tunebooks. Then I had a guy from an ex-Google employee, and his name escapes me at the moment, and I apologize, who approached me with the idea of creating these share links, a way of being able to actually create a URL that when you can actually stick the tune in the link, and then when you open that link, it would actually open the tune in the tool. So this thing snowballed mostly because of user suggestions. People were like, I want to be able to do Chinese flute tablature. Then I started looking at doing Anglo Concertina tablature. Someone had started some work on that, and then I realized that that was a basis for me able to do any kind of tablature. So, box tablature or Mountain Dulcimer tablature, that sort of thing. So the thing just kind of snowballed, mostly because of user suggestions. Now, I know most of you aren't here to learn about the history of the ABC tool, but basically the takeaway from this is that I was using it primarily for the production of traditional Irish tunes, being able to transcribe them and then provide the idea was to provide a PDF of one or more tunes. And then everything else after that was kind of based on user suggestions and just realizing what was possible. And the thing is quite robust. So first thing I want to know is how many people here, and I know most of you are muted, I'd like to know, like, how many people here, is anybody here not familiar with ABC at all? Like, have you never used it and you're just like wondering, what is this ABC thing? If you could just unmute and just tell me if that's your case.
I have to say I was unfamiliar with it until you started with this tool.
Okay.
I really had never used it before, and I'm becoming more and more fluent with it. It's so easy to
Yeah. Yeah.
forward that.
Can other people let me know if if you're actually actively using the tool, or I know that John is using other tools and producing ABC using sort of the more traditional desktop tools. Anybody else who is currently using my tool or other tools like it for their work? And you can just put your answer in the chat. Or
Oh, I was just going to jump in and say, yes, I'm using it, Michael.
Good, great, cool.
Although I got to say, it might be useful for me to get a glossary of terms.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
Yeah, give me an idea. When you say glossary of terms, well, we can talk more about that at the end. So,
Isn't there a link to one already? Like I use one that it's linked at the top where you can go get the information of all of the different types of like what the little symbols mean and stuff.
oh yeah, oh yeah. You're talking about like just when you say glossary terms, you mean actual ABC specification stuff. Yeah, I can show you that too. Okay, so why don't we just actually jump into the tool here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to share the sound as well because I'm going to be playing some stuff. Okay, everybody see the screen here? If anybody's not seeing the screen, just open up your microphone because right now I'm not seeing the chat. I'm just seeing some pictures. So this is what you're presented with when you first enter the tool. pretty plain. The first thing I want to mention is if when you come into the tool, it looks like this. And this is usually the case on smaller screen laptops and that sort of thing. You see the banner at the top that says, do you want to see the editor and notation side by side zoom out? And it gives you some instructions to do that. Do what it says. Zoom out. Command minus or control minus, depending on if you're on a Mac or on Windows, because you really want the side by side view. This is the way it's intended to be used. I mean, it has to be able to be adaptive in some ways, but again, that's my first thing to do is like if you're not seeing the side by side view, zoom out on your browser. I can't do it from inside the tool, so you have to do it manually. It knows that it's in the stacked form, and it'll tell you, hey, put them side by side. But that's the first thing I want to say is a lot of people they don't even realize that it has this. This is the way it's intended to be used. Okay, so a very typical workflow for people doing Irish music with this thing, and this is kind of how it got started. Is like, okay, you got this thing, but like, how do you get tunes into it? And I'll show you a couple of different ways to do that. One is like it's really common that people use the session.org for their tune sources. Now, I have a search engine built into the tool that I'll show you in a minute, but I'll kind of show you the legacy way of doing this, how you would build a set of tunes using the session.org. And this works if you're pulling like ABC files from another source, another online source, right? So I'm going to like search for a tune. We'll just say something simple like the Sporting Pitchfork. I'll show you how to do this in the tool now. And you click on it and you look through all these nice little versions of it and you say, well, okay, let's say, well, we'll just pick the first one. Okay, and so what you do here is you'd say, click on the ABC, and then he has a nice little copy button. And then you could come back to the tool, just click in the box there and then paste it in. And you'd get the notation on the right here. And then you'd go back to the session.org. And we'll just take, let's just say Gallagher's Frolics and search for that. And then we would find a version of that we like. And we'll take this, let's say, we'll take this third one here. And we'll get the ABC and copy it and paste it in here. Again, this is the way that until, forever, one would typically use the tool. And you could just go back and forth between the session.org and the tool. And that's perfectly fine. It works just fine. So a couple things here. So we've got this editor area here on the left that has all the tunes in ABC. Now, if you're not familiar with the ABC spec, there are a number of books online about it. There are tons of websites that are introductions to ABC that'll walk you through, what do the letters mean? What do the numbers mean? ABC is it's actually really simple to use. Basically, the first octave, so it's all letters and numbers and a few symbols. The first octave is all capital letters. So, for example, you can see like F, E, A, G. Matter of fact, I'll turn this on here. You'll see like F, E, A, G. Okay, so first octave is all uppercase letters. Second octave is all lowercase letters. So for example, like this C here, you can see is the little C here. By the way, this is a feature if you want to be able to find things in the music and over in the ABC, you just click this little highlighting on and off thing. I don't turn it on by default because it is kind of, how can I describe it? It's a little bit heavy to use, but it's very, very handy when you need it. Like if you're trying to find, you know, you want to know like what that note is in the ABC, you can just click on it and it'll light it up over here. Or if you want to find out like, well, where is this in the notation, you can just select it. Anything you select gets lit up in red. Okay, so so ABC is fairly simple that way. It's just the lowercase letters are the second octave, uppercase letters are the first octave. The bar lines are just indicated by these little vertical bars. Double bars are just 2 vertical bars. Timing is indicated by the numbers or the lack of number. So, for example, the basic idea is that if there's no number, it's considered an 8th note by default. And that's a generalization, but I'm just going to use it for now. Basically, anything without a number is considered an 8th note. And if there's a number after a letter, it just means that that's the duration in number of 8th notes. So for example, like this G, which is a dotted quarter note, you can see is a G3 because it's the length of 3 8th notes. And if we were to change that to a G4, it would turn, you see, into a half note because that would be 4 8th notes, okay? 16th notes are represented by a slash after the note. So for example, this B, this little B here, this BCD, you can see is a B with a slash and then a lowercase c with a slash and that sort of thing. And so, you know, at its essence, it's pretty simple. These little tildes that are before the notes, those indicate rolls. You can put a little tilde before the note, and that would just put a tilde in the notation, just to indicate to the player that that's where a roll should be. I'm going to go ahead and actually clear this. I'm going to add some tunes to this thing. And okay, let me back up a little bit. So if you look on the top bar of the tool, you'll see open, add, save, a bunch of these buttons. These are the common operations that you do. One of the nicest ways to play with the tool is to just go to the add button, and there's, by default, you'll see this add an example ABC tune. And these are just, the top 3 are just 3 common Irish tunes that I brought in. So I have a reel, a jig, and a hornpipe. Okay, and so they brings in Cooley's, Cash, and Alexander's. Okay, so just a little bit more about the ABC. Let's go into Cooley's here. You can see, sorry, let me bring up Cooley's. So here's Cooley's. And you can kind of see we have this, and again, this is just basic ABC stuff. Like you can see that we have this little chord marker above the note, and you can see how that's represented in the ABC by just putting the name of the chord in quotes before the note. And first and second marker, like here's the first and second endings, you can kind of see how they're represented with a bar and a number after it. So it's not that hard to learn. And like I said, there are a lot of really good websites and books, free books available for learning how to do it. The other thing too is, and I find myself going back to this quite often, which is the actual ABC specification. Now, ABC is a standard, sort of. It was, you know, originally written up in the early 2000s and by Chris Walshaw and others. And it evolved a bit, and it's not a standard like, you know, international standard like MPEG or anything like, or JPEG. It's a very ad hoc kind of, we all agreed to sort of do this, but there's been a lot of variation on it after the 2000s. And, but I do include a link right at the top where the ABC spec is, and I suggest if you're really getting into this to read this. This goes into every single aspect of what you can do with ABC. It talks about how notes are represented, and I mean, it looks like a technical document, but it's actually very, very handy. And again, this is, yeah.
Wasn't there a link there to a chart before? Did you change this recently?
No.
Because I used to go to, there was a chart that it would bring up, and I was using the chart that was
using the chart for the MIDI, probably not for the ABC, I would think.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, so the specification is very, very handy for knowing what's possible with ABC. But for the most part, you know, it's only when I kind of get into the weeds on trying to do something very specific that I end up using there. Most of the things, you know, pretty much everything that you would need to do your common tunes really is sort of present in these sample tunes. So so we have these three sample tunes here, and so the first thing that you should know is if you want to see just the tunes, you can click these arrows in the corner. You'll see there let me go back. So you'll see when we start from nothing, we just have a question mark in the corner. A question mark in the corner of anything in the tool will take you to the user guide. I have a user guide. It's over 200 pages long. I tried printing it out in PDF. It is massive. It is 200 pages. It has every single thing that the tool does in excruciating detail, with demo videos and screenshots, and I mean, every single item is documented extensively. So when you're in any dialogue anywhere in the tool, if there's a question mark, click it. It will tell you exactly what it does and walk you through it all. So please take advantage of the user guide. I find that people don't use it enough, and it really is a very, very helpful, thing. Let me make sure there aren't people waiting to get in. I realize that there may be people waiting to get in. No. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let me go back and add those tunes. Again, I click on Add. I click on just Add a sample reel and hornpipe and jig. Now we have the three tunes here. So if you look in the four corners of the screen, you'll see these icons. There's the question mark that brings up the user guide. There's the zoom icon that just brings you up to a full screen view. So you can just, if you just want to see the tunes, just to kind of like go, does that look okay? This is also, when you're sharing tunes, this is one of the options for what people see when they get the tune. And the lower left is for generating a PDF, and the lower right is for the player. Those are also duplicated up here on the top bar. These are fairly recent additions down in the lower corners. But the first thing we can do is we can just click on any tune. So I'll click on Coolies, and I'll click play, and it brings up my player. And you can just click play it. Okay, could everybody hear that? Because I did share sound. I just want to make sure you could hear that. Yeah? Yes? Were you able to hear it when I played it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is the player. And there's a couple things you can do in the player. First thing is that if, depending on your monitor and your window size and the window shape and all that, sometimes there's this thing that says wide view. And that just brings it up in a nice wide view. We'll go ahead and stick with the normal view so you can see the whole tune. And all of the tunes that are in the tune book are available from the player once you open the player. So for example, you look down the lower right here, you see tune 1 of 3. You can just jump to the next tune, previous tune, that sort of thing. Or if you have a bunch of tunes, and some of these tune books have hundreds of tunes, you can bring up a pop-up list here and just select it from there. Jumps right to that tune. So from here, a couple things you can do. This will let you loop the tune. And so it'll just play round and round. Or if you want to play it slower, you can change the tempo here. For example, if we want it to be at half speed, this is a percentage. So we'll just change that to 50. Now we'll play it, it'll be half speed. Let me go back to stick on Coolies. We'll make it 50% on Coolies.
There's a question from Tina.
Yeah.
Tune plays back with swing?
We'll talk more about swing later. Swing is something you have to do specifically on in each tune, and it depends on the tune. Hornpipes automatically swing. Other tunes, you have to kind of decide how you want to swing, but I would consider that an advanced topic. We'll talk about that toward the end. So we'll go ahead and play these, and so you can see it's now at half speed. Now, I do want to show you something. So, for example, by default, if you click on a tune and play it, you get the whole tune. Okay, so you could just play the tune. You could slow it down. If you select just a part of a tune, so I'll just select just, for example, the A part in the ABC, and then I click play, it'll just bring up the A part. Okay, so I can just work on the A part, or if I want to work on the B part. Okay, so now I can just work on the B part. So this is a really nice way if you're working on tunes, but you're thinking, well, but that's kind of fast, and I don't want to have to be continuously changing the tempos. So there's a feature in the tool called the tune trainer. So I can click on this tune, click play, and you see this button says Start Tune Trainer. And what this does is this is a progressive speed increasing tune trainer. And the idea is that you pick a start speed relative to the tempo that, so tunes have a certain speed sort of inherently built in. There's a particular ABC notation, what's called the Q tag, it tells it how fast to play. And so you set a starting tempo relative to the sort of the native speed of the tune. So it's going to start at half speed. It's going to go up to 100% speed. It's going to increment each time by, I'll make it 25% just to save some time. And we'll say increment tempo after how many loops. And that's how many times it's going to play through the tune before it increments the tempo to the next speed. Just to make this simpler, I'm going to just select a few measures here and show you the tune trainer. So I'll just take the first 4 measures of coulis. Okay. So if we were sitting in just the player, we could loop through those here. And we could slow it down just in here if we wanted to. But if we wanted to actually train on that progressively, we could start the tune trainer. So I'm going to not select that repeat. That'll just save us some time. I can open up the tune trainer. And we'll set the starting tempo to 50%. We'll set the ending tempo to 100%. I'll have an increment by 10% each time. And then I'll just have it loop once for demo purposes. What's going to happen is it's going to play it the first time at 50%, the next time at 60%, 70%, 80%, up until 100%, and it'll just keep looping at that speed. And let's leave that at 100. Oh, I'm sorry, it needs to start at 50. Sorry. And we'll just reload this. So once you enter all your numbers for these, however you want to do your training session, you click Apply Tune Trainer Settings and reload the player. And we'll go ahead and run this training session. And you'll see it starts out slow. Now it's at 60%. And once it gets up to full speed, it'll just keep looping at full speed. Now that alone, just the ability to bring in the tunes, select the parts, do the looping, that's probably what 90% in terms of consumption of the tool. That's the sort of thing that I use it for. For example, I was working on the porthole of Kelp, which is in D minor. I was working it on the BC Bucks the other day. And I was using the trainer to do that. So this is like a really common usage of the tool from a consumption standpoint, from someone who is who's getting some tunes and wants to practice them. So the question is from a playback standpoint, you probably noticed that there were different sounds there. You heard a piano on the melody, you heard piano on the chords, and you heard a bass on the for the bass. That's all settable through ABC, and I don't want to go into too much detail about that in this seminar. But ABC is capable of doing having different sounds for each of those parts, and there's over 500 different sounds in the tool available for all kinds of instruments, and you can look at that, and if you look at actually see here in the tool, it tells you exactly for these samples where those values are set. But I wanted to show you sort of the next thing. So this is just the basic playback. Now, we're looking at this in terms of notation. If you're a mandolin player, you can just click on these buttons that are underneath the underneath the editor, and it'll put it into mandolin tab, or into guitar, standard guitar tab, or dadgad tab, or ukulele tab, or even whistle tablature here that shows you the fingerings for the whistle. And so that's can be very, very handy. Let's see. Another common thing that people use this for is they'll say, well, I've got the cache here, but I want it in, I want to transpose it from the key of G to the key of A. And so pretty much you can just click in any tune and just click transpose up. And now the tune, I've transposed it by 2 half steps. So now it's in the key of A, or I can transpose it down. Now it's in the key of F. Sorry, key of F. So it's really easy to transpose. It's really easy to transpose tunes up and down. If you kind of read the tooltips, one thing you should know is every button has a tooltip. It explains exactly what it can do. And one of the nice things about the tooltips for the transpose, it says, transposes the selected tune up 1 semitone, shift click to transpose up 1 full step. So instead of just clicking it, if you hold down the shift key, it'll instantly go up 1 full step. So now it's in G. Or if you hold down the Alt key, it'll go up an octave or down an octave. Okay, so there's a lot of, like, I look at what people use it. I keep track of what people actually use the tool for, and like the majority of people are playing tune. They're loading up a tune, playing tune, and they're transposing them. That's like 75% of what people do with this tool. Is look at a tune and it'll be in the key of G. They want it in the key of F, or it's in the key of A, and they want it in the key of G. If you want to transpose the entire tune book, you can just select all of. You can just do a select all, and then transpose the whole thing. Okay, so now everything's up 2 steps, take it down 2 steps. Okay. Very, very easy to do. The other thing that I suggest people use a lot, and the reason that it's on the main screen here, is this thing called snapshots. And the idea with a snapshot is, let's say I was about to take all these tunes. I'm going to select them all here. And I was going to transpose them all, or I was going to do something to them that was potentially destructive. What you do is if you want to kind of save a marker, you sort of save I call it a snapshot, which is just like, grab the state where it's at right now. And it's grab that state. And I'm going to go ahead and, so you can look at the tunes here. You can see that they're in their original keys. And I'm just going to like transpose them up to some horrible key. Okay. And you're like, oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. You can just click restore, and it'll get you back to where you were. So this is a get out of jail free card. I always suggest, grab a snapshot before you do anything potentially destructive. And that way you don't have to like save the file, reload the file, do a copy all. You just click snapshot. Now there's only 1 snapshot, so you can only get 1 get out of jail free card. But I find it to be very, very handy. If I'm doing something and then I'm, let's say, generating a tune book, I make a bunch of changes that generate a tune book, and then I want to do the same tune book but with a bunch of different changes. The snapshot is a really, really nice way to do it. Okay, simplest, at this point, this is, we've kind of covered some of the most, the basic use of it, which is like, getting tunes in, the legacy way. I'll show you a better way in a second here. And basic playback and the tune trainer, as well as transposing and the tablature. So at this point, I just want to take a stop and find out, does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, well, we'll just saunter on. If you already have a collection of ABC tunes and you just want to open them in the tool, you can click Open. And it'll tell you if you've done the work, that make sure you didn't want to lose it. And I'll just open up, put this in. I'll just open up some tunes here. I've got a lot of tunes that I've collected. So I'll just open up like, let's say these 11 tunes here. So you can open up existing ABC collections. For example, like here's the CCE tune book. There's this is 116 tunes, and you can see it's pretty fast generating them. It can handle, on a reasonably modern computer, it can easily handle 100, 200 tunes with very little degradation in speed. As a matter of fact, when you're actually working on the tune, so for example, you just find a tune you want to work on, Made Behind the Bar. If you click in it, it jumps in over here, and if we make changes to it, so I'm going to just like change this GAAB to I don't know, GBBD, you can see instantly it changes, and it only redraws the tune that it's working on. So it doesn't have to redraw the entire tune book. It's very, very smart about that. If you click anything on the right here, the notation, the ABC jumps to that area on the left, so you get right to that tune. And if you click in any tune on the left, the notation on the right jumps right to that tune, brings it right to the top. So it's very, very, very smart that way. And again, if you're trying to allocate like what in the world's going on here and where is that in the ABC, if you turn on the highlighting, it does have to do one redraw, and then now you can click on the notation, or you can click on the ABC, and it will highlight that section in the ABC. I'm sorry, in the notation, so that you can find it. And then when you do it, you just turn it off. So yeah, so you can open up existing tune books very easily. I do support both ABC and MusicXML formats. So some of you, if any of you use MuseScore service, the MuseScore service is a really kind of a massive aggregator of scores, and they do produce what's called a MusicXML format. And I can open up MusicXML as well. So for example, I'll actually open up some raw MusicXML, and then I'll show you some examples. So for example, here is just some random MusicXML file that I have, that I found on a website that has a whole collection of lute and guitar tablature. So it's able to open up MusicXML, and then once you open it, you can actually just play it. funny set of instruments here. Let me set some different defaults. I'll show you the settings in a second here. Okay, so yeah, then we could play that one. So it can open up the MusicXML files as well as ABC files. But let's stick with the Irish stuff, and we'll open up a. For example, here's that. Probably some of you saw a few weeks ago. I released this lovely collection of Turco Carolan tunes. So here's that collection, actually loaded into the tool. And I won't apologize for my use of Comic Sans. I love the font. And again, so these are actually, this is a really nice set of O'Carolan tunes. So yeah, so you can open up your existing ABC files from the open dialog. Let me open up that a set of 11 tunes that I had up before. These are the ones I was using for the SmartDraw demos recently. Let's see. Then the second thing you can do is you can save your collection. So like you've made a bunch of changes, you've added a bunch of tunes, you can just click save, and then you can give it a name and an ABC file. And because of the way browsers save, if you repeatedly save a file over and over, it'll just keep appending it won't write over the old file. It'll just say like SmartDraw demo set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for example, let me actually show you that. Actually, I won't be able to show you that because it's sharing just the screen, but you can just keep saving. It's not, you'll never lose work when you save. It'll just save a new version of the file with an increasing number after it. So that's kind of nice to know. Let's see. Copy all just copies, if I wanted to, for example, take all of this out and bring it into someplace else, I could just do a copy all and then paste it into someplace else. But I do want to talk about exporting PDF files. So the next most common use of this tool is in creating handouts and tunebooks, PDF tunebooks. So you want to send around a PDF. You've got a tune arrangement. For like in my case, I was doing these for John, and John wanted to distribute. At the events, he wanted to distribute a PDF of the tunes. So the end product was a PDF. And there's all kinds of ways that the tool can create these PDFs in various formats. So I'm going to just start from scratch. I'm going to just add a tune. I'll just add the Alexanders. Here's the simplest case. You've gone in, you've done a bunch of editing. You say, okay, I actually want to do a cut into that G there, from an A. and blah, blah, blah. You've gone through it, you've transposed, you transcribed, you've transposed, you've done everything you want to do, and now you just want to create a handout PDF. You can just go to Export PDF, pick your paper size, pick your orientation, your layout. There's a bunch of different layouts, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but the simplest one is just 1 tune per page. And in this case, I don't want a page number, and we don't have a table of contents or anything like that, so we won't worry about this, and we'll just say okay, and give it a name, and it generates a nice little 1-page PDF file. So there, you got your PDF file. It's sitting in your downloads directory of your computer, and you can then send that to anybody you want. That's so that's the kind of that's the single handout. Yes,
Michael, question with that. Does that apply when you have the tabs?
Yes.
And the image as well? Okay, I figured it did. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, let's just do it. So for example, here's mandolin. We'll just say export PDF, do exactly the same thing. It'll give you a nice little suffix there for you, so you'll know this is the mandolin version. And there's the mandolin tab version. So this is like the simplest case where you have a single tune and you want to just create a quick PDF handout and give to somebody. No problem at all. Let's take it to the next level. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. I'm going to open up a different set of tunes here. Just a random collection of like 10 tunes. So here's like 10 reels. I'll just leave them in standard notation. For those of you who don't read music, there is an option here for just names, and that puts the note names underneath the notes, so you can just read those. And it kind of follows the same general idea where the lowercase are the second octave and the uppercase are the first octave. So, and if you generate a PDF of those, that's what will appear on the PDF. So let's take it to the next level. The next level is I've got this tune book here, and I want to just create a PDF of this tune book, and I want to we'll take it. We'll say I want it to. Actually, let me open it. Yeah, it's fine. I need to modify this just slightly because this is set up for a slightly different demo. It shows paging, some forced paging information. I want to disable that just for this. So I've just got 10 raw tunes here loaded in, and I want to generate a PDF of this, and I want it to put as many tunes as can fit on a page. And I don't care about a title page. We're not going to, or table contents or playing or anything at this point. So I could just export PDF. Paper size again. Tune layout this time I'll say multiple tunes per page. And I'll have page number down on the bottom right. And we'll have page number on the first page, and we'll just go ahead and generate that one. And it walks through the tunes. And what it tries to do is it tries to fit as many tunes as it can on a page without splitting the tune across the page. And so now it'll give you this PDF, okay, with multiple tunes per page. Okay, so that's kind of like level 2. Now you want to be able to create a set list with you want to be able to create a PDF with multiple tunes per page. But once you do that, you're like, well, once you get beyond, and that's fine if you have 3 or 4 tunes, but maybe you want a tune book for your session, and you want a title page, and maybe you want a table of contents to get to those tunes. So when you go to your export PDF, there's an option here that says configure PDF tunebook features. And this is a whole bunch of options that lets you set up the title page, table of contents, index, page headers, page footers. We'll talk more about playback links and QR codes in a minute, but we're just going to use the real simple case here. And I'm going to have a title page. It's going to say demo tunebook. I'm going to have a subtitle I'll put on it. Just says Zoom demo. What's today? Today's the 13 Jan 2024. I'm going to have a table of contents, and I'm going to have an index to the tune book, and I'm going to put a page footer in each page. If I don't want a table of contents, I can just delete that, and it'll say no table of contents will be included. Okay, so you just sort of decide what you want. If you don't want a title page, you can just delete that. It'll say no title page will be included. Okay, so whatever you actually insert here, if you put anything in these boxes, it'll add that feature to the tune book. And you can pick your quality. For most tunebooks, this just ends up affecting the size of the tunebook. It has to do with the quality of the notation that goes into the PDF. Most of the cases, you can just leave it the default, which is high. And this sets how much space there is between the tunes and the PDF. And I'll turn off this QR code stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the first thing you do is just, once you have everything set up here, you click OK. And now I want you to look in the left here, kind of in the background, you can see it inserted a bunch of stuff at the top of the PDF. And these are directives that my tool understands that has to do with the PDF generator. If you know anything about ABC, you see they all start with a %, and that's a comment directive in ABC. That just means that this is a comment. And that means that other ABC software, for example, if you're using, I don't know, ABC Navigator or any of the kind of legacy tools, they will see those lines of text and they will think it's a comment and they will ignore them. And that's because there really is no standardization in ABC of things like table of contents or index pages or playback or sorting or anything like that. So the idea is that you could take this ABC, and then if you have another tool or somebody else wants to use a different tool, it won't break their tool. It won't give you those features because those features are specific to my tool. But just to know that the idea was to create, sort of have a do no harm philosophy about any features I add that aren't in the ABC spec, because some of this stuff just isn't standardized. So you can see it added a bunch of stuff to that. And then you could then save that ABC and you would have it later. And you can kind of see it sort of corresponds to everything we saw there. It says add title, add subtitle, add table of contents. You can change these in the ABC after it inserts it. It's totally under control. That whole dialog is just a shortcut to basically create all this for you. Okay, so we have a bunch of tunebook features added. It says has a title page, subtitle, table of contents. Now again, all we did, I'm going to just start from scratch. Even though I kind of went into deal to explaining what was going on, you don't have to know what you don't actually have to know, what's going on there. All you have to do is just click Export PDF, click Configure PDF Tunebook Features, fill in the things you want, click OK, set up your, just like any other printing. I want portrait, I want multiple tunes per page, and then at this point it's going to go ahead and generate. Zoom, give me back my mouse. Okay, it's going to generate the PDF file. I hate when Zoom does it. It grabs your mouse. Okay, so it's generating the PDF file just like before, except now the PDF is going to look a little different. It's going to have a title page. It's going to have subtitle. It's going to have a table of contents. Then it's going to have the tunes. This table of contents is live. So it's a PDF. You can click on Porthole Kelp, take you to the page with Porthole Kelp on it. These little arrows that it creates on the side, those are links. The one on the right takes you to the index. In this case, the index is sorted. You notice it's not in the same order, so it's actually in the alphabetical order of the tunes. We can click on Repeal of the Union, takes you to the page with Repeal of the Union on it. Okay. So this is like probably the third most common use scenario. If someone just wants to create a simple tunebook with a table of contents, a title page, an index, and have the whole thing linked together, so you take you right to the tune. And all I had to do that was just enter my tunes, go to Export PDF, go to Configure PDF Tunebook Features, and then click OK. Let's say I wanted to change the title. I can just change that to my new title. And if you look over here, it says add title demo tunebook. You'll see now it just changes that to my new title. You can update it. It knows about this stuff being in the tunebook, and it'll just update anything you change. So you don't have to delete it and start over. You can just change it. And this is very handy. So you probably notice that when I do these tunebooks, I post on Facebook, you'll see there's the notation version of it, and then there's the mandolin tab version of it. So all I have to do now, if I want the mandolin version, and again, I said you can modify these in the ABC. So I'll just change it. I'll say mandolin tab version. And I'll just go Export PDF. I don't have to do the configure. And I'll just go ahead and, again, Zoom has grabbed my mouse. Give me back my mouse. 1 second, I try clicking back. Oh, there we go. And it's going to generate the mandolin version of it. All I did was to just click on mandolin and regenerate the tab. Regenerate the PDF. And you'll see we get the exact same tune book as before, same features, and now we just have the mandolin versions. Okay. So that's why I'm able to, like, in an evening, release 5 different versions of a tune book. I just generate the PDF, I change the setting here, I regenerate the next version of it, and I just walk through all of them. It's very, very easy to do multiple versions of tunes. So if you're a teacher and you've got, you know, mandolin and you've got guitar versions, or you want to whistle, like this is a real common one, we get the whistle version of it. We'll make this we'll just change this to a whistle version. The other thing too is you can click this little PDF icon in the corner, it does the same thing. Now we have whistle tab version of it. Okay. Let's go back to notation. So the next thing that people often say is, well, what I want is a cheat sheet. I don't really care. I don't want the whole tunes. I just want a cheat sheet. I want the first line of every tune. And all that is just change in, I'm going to just call it the incipits version. When you do the PDF export, if you look under the tune layout, there's a whole bunch of options here. 1 tune per page, multiple tunes per page, and then note incipits. And what note incipits does is you have a couple of choices for a number of columns. This is a fairly, I'll show you what happens with the different column options, but we'll just do 1 column. This will just, instead of, I don't know why Zoom does this, where I can't click buttons. There it goes. Okay. Okay, so now it's generated the tune book again, but you'll see it's a little different. It has just the first line of each tune. And if you have a lot of tunes, or you just want a very, very concise version of it, you can change the columns to 2 columns. Let me go back because I went awfully fast there. So you can see this note incipit columns. You can make that 2 columns. So if you have like hundreds of tunes in a tune book, this can be a really nice way of creating just a very terse, you know, these would be stacked up and there'd be multiple pages. A couple of the other options are, some people say, well, I don't even care about the notes. I don't read music. I just want to know the first, 3 bars of each tune. So the option here is ABC text incipits. This does exactly what, there we go. And now what you'll see is you'll get just the start of each of those tunes in just the letters. You're saying, well, but what I want is the whole tune, and I don't care about the notation, so you have ABC text complete tunes as an option. And you'll see now we just get the entire tune. It's stripped away a lot of the kind of fluff from the ABC to kind of just give you the notes for it. So the key takeaway here is there's a lot of options for the PDF export, a lot of formats. And we haven't even started talking about QR codes. For those of you, this is a particularly useful one for those of you who are in Ireland and teach using, they have a very slightly different ABC system in Ireland. And you've probably seen this at workshops if you've ever gone to one. It was taught by an Irish, native Irish teacher, is they don't use our standard ABC. They use what's sort of generically called Blackboard ABC, or I was originally approached by someone from CCE to do this. And the idea is that they use a form of ABC that looks, okay, let me show you here. So if you look underneath the note letters here for Black-Haired Lass, you can see we have this combination of lowercase letters and uppercase letters, and that's kind of standard ABC, representation. In Ireland, they use a slightly different a standard that looks like this. And this is all uppercase. And the idea being that notes without a tick mark on them are first octave, and the notes with the tick mark after them are second octave. Everything is uppercase. And the whole thing starts on, it's all shifted like one note, so that they consider, like without a tick mark, they would consider the C, what we would consider to be a lowercase c and ABC, they consider to be, it's an uppercase C. Anyway, it's a slightly different standard. And so one of the problems that that there is with ABC and the and the whole system of music education, Irish music education in Ireland, is that they can't use ABC as it comes off of off of the session.org directly, because this is not what they teach. They don't use this representation, and they use a different representation. And so one of the things that the tool does is it can actually create a PDF. It can take an entire tune book and create a PDF version of it that has the format that they use for their students' tune books automatically. So you can see here, this is all uppercase in the Comhaltas format. So this is again for this is something that for teachers of Irish music, this is the ability to take an entire tune book of standard ABC that you edit in the tool, and then create an entire tune book of tunes in the format that they use for their students, which simply hasn't existed before. I mean, this just makes it so easy to do that sort of thing. Before I sort of take it to the next level, which is it's just clicking one box. Any questions so far on the basic flow? I hope I'm kind of giving you a sense that it's fairly easy to do all of this stuff, and it's quite flexible. So I just want to make sure there are no questions before I kind of go on to the next thing.
This has been clear and great, Michael.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the next level is we have these PDF tunebooks, and you've got these handouts that you can, email to people and that sort of thing. But one of the things that I figured out how to do at some point in this project about 8 months ago was how to make these things play themselves, so that you can actually have it that the tunebooks have the information in them to allow you to play the tunes. And I'm going to just grab a snapshot here, and I'm going to go ahead and clear the work area. And I'm going to just add a tune here. I'm going to add Alexander's. So I'm going to kind of show you the evolution of this, and then just so you can kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes here. And then I'll show you just how easy it is to make something that, make a tune book where everything plays. So early on in the project, we added this idea of share links. And the idea was that, if you wanted to share this tune with somebody, you, instead of having to physically email them a PDF, and the PDF would not be very useful to them, or you could copy all of the ABC and stick it in an email. You could say, well, here's this tune, I could do copy all. I could go into my email program, and then I could compose an email, and I could paste it in there and say, here's some ABC. I could do that. But I wanted to make it super simple for people to share tunes. So started looking around, thinking about, and I just want to double check. I want to give the guy the proper credit, is Philip McGarvey. Philip McGarvey is responsible for all of the sharing, all of what you've seen in the tune books. It was his idea originally. It's changed a lot from his original conception, but he did a proof of concept of it, and I cannot be more thankful for his idea, because it's really kind of revolutionized what's possible with these things. Here's the idea. You have this tune, and I want to be able to share it with somebody else. So if you go into the sharing, I click on sharing, and you'll see you get a bunch of options here, and it's created this is actually a URL. You can see it's HTTPS, and it's to my tool, and then it's got a bunch of parameters after that. And what it's done is it's actually taken the ABC for that tune, and it's compressed it, and it's packaged it up in a way that is compatible with a link. You know, because you can't have links have to have a certain form. There's certain letters they can and can't have. They have to have a certain format. And it actually creates a hyperlink for you. And the hyperlink, because ABC, you know, as we've seen, is very, very terse in terms of, you know, it doesn't use that many characters. It uses, you know, the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, upper and lowercase, some numbers, and a few symbols. So it compresses really, really well. So the idea is that you take all of the ABC, you compress it into a very terse format, and you create a URL. And the URL's got some information. And so like all of this is actually the compressed notes. And then you can see there's like format. This says like which tablature to use, line spacing, the name of the tune set, that sort of thing. You don't have to be so much concerned of what's actually in here, but it creates this link. And then at this point, we can actually copy that link, and I could just mail you the link. And then what would happen is if you open that link, I'm going to click test share URL. If we open that link, this is what would happen if they open that link. They would get this they would actually get the tune full screen. And then if they wanted to actually edit it, they can just close the full screen, and now they're in the editor and they have the tune. So now they have their own version of the tune. They could create their own version of a PDF of it, that sort of thing. So I've actually sent the tune book to them as a link. Where things got really interesting was when figured out how to add playback to these things automatically. So you can just click add autoplay here. All it did was stick a little play equals 1 on the end. And when we test this one now, you'll see that it actually opens up in the player. So now we can play it. Or I can train on it. Okay, so everything that was needed to share that tune and play it and do everything with it is in that link. That the tune itself, all of these share links, everything is included in the links. There is nothing on a server. None of your information is stored anywhere except in that link. Okay, so once I got this sharing system working that allows you to just send a link to somebody, and you can even shorten. I have a link shortener if you really, you know, some cases where these links can get really big, and if that would look weird, you can shorten the URL. But you just click that, it gives you another link that's shorter. Once we came up with a system for being able to share the tunes, then it was like, could we take advantage of that inside the PDF files themselves, so that we could create, because you can have hyperlinks in PDFs, and so it was a matter of figuring out how to generate those links for each tune, and then figuring out how to put the hyperlinks at the right place inside the tune books, so that when you clicked on, for example, the title of the tune, it would just open the player. So if we, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to restore. Remember, I used the snapshot. I'm going to get us back to where we were before. We're back to our tune book. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to create a PDF. And I'm going to go back to the configure PDF tunebook features. And this time I'm going to click this playback links. I'm sorry, I'm going to add playback links to each tune to allow playing the tune by clicking the tune tile. I'm just going to click that. And once I click that, I can pick the sound that I want the tunes to be played at when the person clicks on the tune. So the first thing you should know is that there are what are called sound fonts, and sound fonts are like kind of like in the days where people were buying keyboards, and you'd buy a Yamaha keyboard or a Roland keyboard or a Korg keyboard or a sequential circuits keyboard. I'm probably dating myself. And they'd all have a piano sound. There was a patch called piano, but they didn't sound the same. The Roland piano would sound different from the Yamaha piano, but they were all piano, and they were all in the same place. I know harpsichord was always number 6, but the harpsichord on the Roland wouldn't sound like the harpsichord on the Yamaha. And that's the way to think of the sound fonts. They're like different keyboard manufacturers, and there are 5 sound fonts in the tool. I happen to like Fat Boy myself. They have funny names. These are open source entities, so these are the names people gave them. And you pick your sound font, you pick which melody instrument you want for the melody. So I'll just say acoustic grand piano, and you'll see that there are 138 different sounds for each of the sound fonts. And we'll just leave. I'll set the bass to we'll set the bass to one of those synthesizer basses like I was using, and we'll leave the chord instrument. And now we'll click OK. And I want you to look over here. You'll see it just added a little. This is one of those things where it's not letting me use my mouse. There we go. You'll see it added. It just added. God, I wish Zoom wouldn't do that. It just added this one little line to it. It says add all playback links with 3 numbers, the 038, 0, and Fatboy. Those tell it that tells it the melody patch, the bass patch, the chord patch, and which sound font. But again, you don't have to worry about memorizing this stuff, because all that stuff is here inside the Configure PDF Tunebook features. Now I'm going to generate the exact same tunebook. I'm going to do this one as a multiple tunes per page. And it's going to look exactly the same as it did before, except with one major difference. So here's our tunebook. Here's our table of contents. Looks just like before. Here's the difference. You can click on the titles of any of these tunes, and it opens it in the player. So these tunebooks, these PDF tunebooks, have the ability to play themselves. And this is the technology that's behind all of those tunebooks that I've released. It's just the same thing, just at a larger scale. That feature for the clicking on, again, you have 2 different links here. You have like the one in the table of contents that takes you to the tune, and then you have the link on the tune that takes you to the player. Okay. And again, you can run the tune trainer once you get there. So you can, a person can practice on, for example, a teacher could create a tune book, a bunch of tunes. They click on the tune title, it takes them to the tune. They can set up the instruments. For example, if we did the same thing, let's say I go back in here and I don't know, I'm a harp teacher. Okay. So I'll go to export to PDF Tunebook, configure Tunebook. I'll change that acoustic grand piano to let's say, where is it? Orchestral harp. And I happen to like the fluid sound font harp better. And I'll regenerate this tunebook. And now we'll have a tunebook that has harp links instead of okay. So it's very, very easy to customize these tunebooks for the instrument and that sort of thing. And again, if you want, you can manually, you don't have to use the configure tunebook features. It just changes what goes in this text. You can manually change this if you want. Now those playback links, I'm going to just change that back to piano manually. Those playback links work in all of the formats. So for example, we'll do the same thing with the incipits. Looks exactly the same as before. We have this in the 2 column. These guys are live. Okay, so I go back. We'll click on long for collector. Brings up the tune. Same thing for the text versions. If I do an export and I do, let's say, the text incipits sorted. Here are the incipits, and the titles are live. Okay, so that's, again, a lot of options in terms of the formats. All of them have the live playback available in some form. And essentially that's how I create all of those tunebooks. If you're
Michael,
someone who,
can I get a question in here?
yes, please.
Okay. I hate to interrupt you, but I was
No.
I've always kind of wondered, if I make a little tune book like that about this size, can I make the whole thing just play all the tunes one after another?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah. No,
There's my
no.
answer.
Yeah, there's no way to make them play one after another. I mean, it's certainly something that could be added in the future. It sort of makes sense. If a tune book is small enough, here's kind of an interesting scenario. So this one might be small enough. Let me just try this. This is only what, 10 tunes? Yeah, it might work. So one of the options, and this is more for like when you have, because here's the problem. Hyperlinks are limited to about 8,000 characters. And this is not a limitation on hyperlink. This has to do a lot with like the particular like GoDaddy web server that I use, that my stuff is hosted on. But they're limited to about 8,000 characters. So the links can be up to 8,000 characters, which is a pretty big when it's compressed. But one of the options is playback links contain an entire tune book. And if I now regenerate this tune book, and I'll just say all tunes for the name, and I will generate, we'll do this multiple tunes per page. And it'll tell me if it can't fit it. I'm just curious to see if it, okay, it was able to do it. So it was able to create links that were, let's see, was it able to do it? Let's see. Yes. So let me just show you what happened there. So we have the PDF, and normally when you create play links for tunes, it just brings up that one tune. This case, because I checked that box, that play link has the entire tune book in it. So now I can click on any tune in the tune book, and it'll actually bring up all of the tunes in the player, which is kind of cool. I mean, this is like it, but again, this won't work for like 100 tunes. It'll work for 10 tunes or 20 tunes. And if it won't fit, it'll tell you. It'll put up little things that says, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I can't do that. Your tunes, there's too many tunes. Use fewer tunes or smaller tunes." But anyway, this is the kind of a cool, fairly recent feature I added, which is the ability to create the play links that have the entire tune book in the play link for each tune, which I think is kind of a neat thing. And of course, the beauty of this is that once you're here, if the student wanted to generate a PDF, they could just click PDF. They don't even have to go to the editor. I didn't want to have people go in the editor unless they really had to. They could create their own PDF tune book right here, or they could play it again by clicking on the play icon in the corner. Or if they really wanted to, they could go into the editor and work with the whole thing, because now the entire tune book got transmitted in the play links, which is kind of cool. One of the things that you should know is, let me do that again. I want to show you just, we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but I do want to show you in case you ever see this particular warning come up. And this has to do with Adobe Acrobat. Adobe Acrobat thinks that it is 1996. And so like we have these tune book here, and we have these lovely links, and the links bring up the entire tune book in the player and all that. If we go back to the tool here, you see it's put up a little warning. It says, Adobe Acrobat maximum URL length warning. And here's the problem. Adobe Acrobat thinks it's 1996 and we're all running Internet Explorer 11. And back in those days, hyperlinks had a limit of about 2,000 characters, or how does it say, 2,076 characters. And what will happen is if you try to open up that PDF specifically using Adobe Acrobat, and I believe it's true for Acrobat Reader, and you click on any of those hyperlinks, what will happen is that it will not open correctly in the ABC tools. And the ABC tools will see this and it'll say, are you coming here from Acrobat? Maybe you should try something else. And I just put this out there so people are aware of it, because it's a very common thing. You send someone a PDF, they double click on it, open an Acrobat. If it's got these really long links, like you've put the entire tune book in each link and it doesn't work, I just wanted to show you that what you need to do in those cases is to use any other way of reading an Acrobat file. And you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just going to drop the PDF onto any browser. So I just dragged and dropped the PDF file onto, I'm running Firefox here. It works with Chrome or Safari as well. And the PDF readers that are built into the web browsers or almost any other PDF reader, like if you're using, I use Goodreader on my iPads and iPhone to read PDFs, they have no problem with these longer links. It's just Adobe Acrobat that has this issue. So I just wanted to put that out there that there are some cases where Adobe Acrobat has problems in really, really long share links. But in most cases, you don't run into that very often, just because normally you don't, it's more common that you just put the link for the single tune on each tune in a tune book rather than have the entire tune book have the play links. So again, you can just change the instruments very easily here in the sound font for playback links. And you can, if you don't want that feature at all, you can just disable it by clicking this box. Okay, before we take it to the next level on the sharing side, I just want to see if there's any questions. We haven't even dived into the sort of the more I'm going to say esoteric, but some of the more interesting features of the tool. But any questions on the basic PDF with play link generation? And again, all of this is detailed in the user's guide, and there's demo videos and all that kind of stuff there as well. Okay, for the title page and the table of contents and all that, if you didn't want Helvetica, unfortunately the PDF engine I use has only 3 fonts, Times, Helvetica, and Courier. So if you checked Times instead and we regenerated this tune book, you'd see that the title page now has Times on the font. So just a different font for the table of contents and that sort of thing. Otherwise, everything else is the same in the tune book. Okay, one last thing I just want to show you, because you've probably seen me talk about it and you're wondering why the heck would anybody want this. There's sort of 2 aspects to what I'm doing. One is I wanted to create a tool. Again, this was originally for my own purposes. I wanted to create a tool that would make it really, really easy to work with ABC, to create PDFs, and to share them around. But I'm also interested in innovative ways for people to share music and to exchange these tune books. And so you've probably seen a few videos where I've done stuff with QR codes. And I think QR codes are interesting because they are a way of very easily transmitting tune information between devices, and you can use your cell phone camera to scan them and go right to them. So I'm going to just snapshot that again. I'm going to clear it and add just one tune here. We'll just add, again, that hornpipe. Under sharing, you'll see that there is an option for creating a QR code. And it'll generate a QR code of that tune. And this is actually a code that you could scan with your phone. And all that QR code contains is exactly the same URL that the share link. It's just basically taken that share link for that tune and encoded it in a visual form. And the idea being that you can create tune books. One of the other options for creating a tune book is you can create a tune book, for example, of just QR codes. And so now you have the tune book. It looks like a tune book, except now it just has a QR code for every tune. And if you're using the tune book yourself, you can just click on it and it takes you to the tune. But you could, for example, if you're at a session and you wanted to have somebody else get the tune, and you're sitting there both with your phones, you're like, oh, okay, we're going to play Tar Bolton. They're like, oh, I don't know Tar Bolton. You say, okay, scan. You click on that, takes you to that QR code. You hold that up on your phone, and they say, scan that. They scan that, and they end up with that on their phone. So now they have the tune. Right, so this is just a really easy way for you to be able to send a tune to somebody else. You know, if you're both sitting there with the tunes on your phones. The other option that I added recently, because I thought that was a bit terse, was an option to have the notation and kind of alternate between the QR codes and the tunes. Kind of best of both worlds scenario here. So here we've got a tune book that has, it has the tunes just like before. The first page has the notation, and then the page after it will have the QR code. So, it's a case of, again, it's like, it's kind of a weird scenario, but these are kind of things I can do, and I figure why not, put them out there as an experiment, like, well, maybe this could be something that would be useful. Or here's an example. You're a music teacher, and, you're teaching a class, and you've got, today we're going to go through these 3 tunes. And so on the door of the classroom, you just put up, you print out these pages for the 3 tunes that has the notation, and next to it is the QR code. And the students just scan the codes, and now they've got the tunes on their phone. So, some of these are a bit out in the weeds, but I'm trying to create innovative ways of creating and sharing music, both for the use of teachers as well as for session players, for being able to make it really easy to exchange, really easy to exchange the music. So, for example, if that QR code, let's say it's only the 3 tunes for the day, that's small enough to fit, probably small enough to fit in a QR code, and the QR code would have all of the tunes for that particular day's session, and they could just paste it on the wall, print out the pages, students scan them, and now they've got all the tunes. They've got the whole tune set, and they could create their own PDF. They can bring it into the editor. They could change the instruments. They can run the tune trainer on it. They could do all that. So let's just do an example of that. So for example, let's say I'm hoping these will actually fit I've not actually tried this demo, but we're going to try to do it. So I've got 3 tunes. Let's say you're the teacher. You're going to teach these 3 tunes today. And we'll see if this actually can fit in a QR code. This will be interesting. Actually, I can tell just by doing sharing and generate QR code. Yes, it will fit. That button will not be lit if it can't fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a PDF export, notation by QR codes. I'm going to set it up so it puts the entire tune book in each one. That's good. And we're going to generate that tune book. Okay, so here is this tune book, and the teacher could put these tunes up on the wall, and now here's this QR code. This QR code should have all 3 tunes. Yes, it does. So when the students scan that QR code, they get all the tunes, and now they actually have the ability, if they want to, they actually have the entire tune book. That QR code contained everything that was in the tune book, all of the text that was required to be able to recreate the tune book. And they can then create their own PDF, or they can slow it down, okay? It's a very easy way of being able to transmit the tune book between teacher and student. Here's where things get really weird. So one of the options is you can add a QR code to the tune book itself. So I'm going to just click this box here. It says add a QR code to the end of the PDF. And you can put in your own URL here. Like if you always want everybody to go to Europe, I could type michaeleskin.com in here and it would just create a QR code for michaeleskin.com. Matter of fact, let's just do that first time. We'll just say michaeleskin.com. This will be a custom URL, should be HTTPS. And you see it just added a little QR code and caption for your QR code thing here. And we'll go ahead and generate that PDF. So here we have the PDF like before, but at the very end there'll be a QR code. And that QR code will just, if they scan it, will just take you directly to my website, for example, because that's what I put in as the URL. But if you don't put in a custom URL for the QR code, it will try to generate a QR code for the tune book. And now if we generate this tune book, so here's the PDF tune book, table of contents, all the tunes play. Right, click on the tunes play. But the QR code at the end of the book contains the entire book. So someone, even if they have the physical PDF file, print it out. They can scan it with their phone or click on it, and now they have the entire tune book available to them. So the PDF file now contains the instructions for creating the PDF file from itself. It's kind of like self-replicating robots, which is kind of mind-blowing when you get your head around what just happened there. It's like the PDF has the ability to create the PDF. It's kind of nuts. Okay, so with that, I've kind of gone way off into the weeds, but I just kind of wanted to show you, coming from a very simple like single tune PDF to creating self-replicating tune books that can play themselves. That's kind of the full extent of what's possible with the tool. And you can see none of it was hard. I didn't have to go into any of, even though I changed a few things manually here, you don't have to, everything you can do is sitting in that dialogue right there, right? So, and it explains, and if you're not sure you can just click on the question mark and it'll take you to the configured PDF Tunebook features where it goes into detail about each thing, and there are videos that explain every single aspect of that. So, with that, any questions? The key being, I just want you to kind of get a sense for, what's possible here. I think probably the, 90% use case is the simple multi-tune tune book with play links. That's the most common way people use it, but it's capable of doing a lot more if you want to kind of go off and do more stuff with it. But before we got into some of the more advanced features of both the tune book organization, as well as some of the more advanced features for actually manipulating the ABC, I just want to make sure there aren't any questions at this point. Right. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is some nice tools that are available for just reorganizing the tune book. So for example, I'm going to open up, let's see, I'm going to restore that. I think I still have those 10 tunes from before. Let me open up a little bit larger tune book here. Let's say like these 25 reels. And I want to, so these, notice these, this is some collection I found it. These are all in alphabetical order. And I wanted to rearrange them. So if you, on the add menu, the add button, you'll see there's a whole bunch of options here. There is a change the order of tunes or delete tunes from the tune book. These are very, very handy features. You can just click and drag these around. So here are all the tunes in the tune book. You can just move them around if you want. So for example, like right now you can see Abbey is at the top. I'm going to move Bag of Spuds to the top, and then I'm going to follow it by Bear Island. And when I click OK, you'll see the tunes shuffle themselves up, and now they're in different order. So this makes it really easy to organize your tunes. If you say, well, I don't, I don't really want Bank of Ireland and Alice's in there. You could, you could just go into the ABC and find them here and then delete them, manually like that. You could do that, but it's way easier to do this. Just go into the add menu, delete the tunes from tune book, and this puts all the tunes in. You can click the ones you want, like, oh, I don't want Alice's, and I don't want Barmaid, and I don't want Being a Tale of Lar, and I don't want Bag of Spuds. So you'll now see the Bear of Island. I hit delete, takes them out. It'll ask you if you want to get rid of them. You say yes, okay, and you can see it's deleted them from the tune book. Here's a perfect case where the snapshot can be handy. So you're like, I'm going to go delete some tunes. Maybe I'll snapshot it before I do that. So let's grab the snapshot. We'll go into the delete tunes from the tune book. We'll delete these first 5. The first one now will be Banshee. Delete. You'll see we have Banshee at the top, and you're like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Restore. We get it back. So those are really, really handy features for organizing your tune books. Let's see what else is on the add menu. Oh, so I talked about sort of the legacy way. I probably should have talked about this earlier, sort of the legacy way of getting tunes. You know, you go to the session.org and go find them. But at some point, I was able to, I was approached by Gavin Hennigan, and he had a collection of about, I think it was 25,000 tunes that he had collected over the years. And he originally approached me asking about if I had a way that would make it easy for him to search them. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. We came up with a way to do that. And then it was eventually like, oh, this is really cool. Maybe we should build it into the tool. So, so if you see, there's a button here. It says search and add tunes. And this has two databases of tunes that are built into the tool. One is the Gavin Hennigan set, which is 20,000 tunes plus. And the other one is from, if any of you have used an app or a website called folkfriend.app, this is a website that's much like TunePal. On your phone, you can go to this website, and it's really smart. It caches itself on your phone, and it looks like an app. It's actually a website. And you click a button, and you can play into your phone, and it'll identify the tune, and it's like super fast, and it's got a huge database. And it turns out that the database that it uses is a scrape of the session.org. So it has every single tune. At some point, it's kind of like ChatGPT. At some point, it scraped the session.org, and it created a tune database of all the tunes that were there, every setting of every tune. And it turns out that that database is open source and publicly available, and it's something that Jeremy supports. And I contacted the Folk Friend people, and they're like, yeah, you can just use it. And I'm like, you're freaking kidding me. I can just build this into my app? They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. So between these two, I've got 65,000 tunes built into the tool, and you can search for them. So for example, I'm going to search for a woman. And a bunch of options here. You know, if I don't tell it to return the first variation, it will return like because these have, you know, think about the session.org, you know, there's multiple versions of the tunes. So if it's a scrape of the entire session.org, and I search for, you know, Gallagher's, I'll search for Gallagher's, it'll return all of the versions that were there. Okay, you're like, well, I don't really want all of the versions. I just give me a version of it. So it'll find, here's tunes that start with Gallagher. Oh, sorry, match start a title. I have options like first variation, match start, only return version with chords, and how many versions. So now it'll find. So it found 5 versions of tunes where these are probably different tunes that start with Gallagher that were considered different tunes inside session.org. Oftentimes they'll have the same name for different tunes, and they'll be actually different tunes. Let me go back just a second here because I want to clear this to show you. So we can go into search and add tunes, type Gallagher. Match start of tunes, maximum number of results, search. And at this point, if you just want to add them to your tunebook, you can just say add results to tunebook. And now those tunes were added to the tunebook. So we've got 25 different tunes, or how many did we get there? 5 tunes it found. And at this point, this is where the delete the tunes, you know, you could decide that, oh, I just don't, all I really care about are maybe those 2, and we can get rid of those 3. Okay, so so the search and add tunes is just a really nice feature. Essentially, I've built in the entire session.org database into the tool, and you know, if you want to find tunes, you can find them anywhere. So if I want to look for woman, you know, this will find woman anywhere in the title name, and we'll just say first variation again. So we have Irish washerwoman, woman of the house, Longford beggar woman, so on.
And I just interject, and oh my God, wow into
Yeah.
this conversation.
And the thing too is you have a couple of choices here. One is you could click add results to Tunebook and it'll just add everything in here. This is editable. So if you're like, you can edit this before you do that. Like I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to get rid of this one or whatever. Or, you could just say, well, I just care about this one. And then we can copy it. You could copy it and then close it and then just paste it. I mean, there's a lot of options there. It's just a text field. So you could do it that way as well. There's nothing special about the text that's in that box. It's just text in a box, so you can do whatever you want with it. So that's a really handy thing, and it was just really nice of Gavin to donate his set. I would definitely have some fun with it because he has some really interesting tune settings he's collected that are beyond what's in the session.org. So let's see. So that in the add menu. Okay, so we had the search and add tunes. We had the change order. There's a couple of nice templates down here. If people are into making songs, that sort of thing, there are some templates. My wife put this one together. It kind of shows how to do lyrics. Again, this is not so much for the Irish players, but just to show that there are these templates available that you can kind of use to understand how to build a tune with lyrics and verses and that sort of thing. And then the configure PDF Tunebook features is also available from here. Another thing too is that the snapshots are the snapshots that we talked about last beyond the particular run of the tool. So for example, like right now, I had grabbed a snapshot earlier, and at this point, if I'm just opening the tool, I can restore from snapshot, and it will get me back to where I was when I grabbed the snapshot. If I'm going to reload, you can see I'm going to reload the tool here from scratch. It still knows that snapshot exists, and so it can grab that snapshot. It can restore that snapshot. The other thing is that sometimes people are worried about losing work. Or like, oh, I'm on a website. What if the website goes down? What if my browser crashes? There's an option. There's an option to create what's called a auto-snapshot on browser close or reload. And all that does is when you close the app, any changes that you made are grabbed into a special snapshot, which is called an auto-snapshot. And it just simply saves all of your work that you were at the point where you left the browser. So you're like I have that turned on right now. So for example, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to just put a comment here that says, hello, everyone. Okay, and I'm not even going to grab a snapshot. I'm just going to reload the browser. Like, oh no, I lost my work. What am I going to do? You can go to add, restore from auto snapshot. And you can see it's restored my work from where I was before. So that's just kind of a safety thing. And again, we'll talk a little bit about the settings and all that toward the end here, but I just want to let you know that those are things that are available and are described in the user guide. Let's go back to the add menu here. Just want to see if there's anything else. Yeah, these are just templates. Some nice examples. Part of if you've seen any of the work I've done on some of the, I came into ABC, and for 20 years working with ABC, I thought it was just for making Irish music, and then as I started playing around with MusicXML, I started to realize it's like, wow, this thing is way, way more capable than just representing simple tunes. So I have a couple of examples here that you can play with that are just fun. One is a Bach two-part invention. Just to kind of show that it's possible to do that. And you could play around with the instruments here. If you wanted to hear that on a piano instead, you could change the instruments. Or if you just wanted to hear just the top line, you can actually change the instrument to just mute. Again, all of this is described in the manual. This is great for playing if you have multiple parts. Now we're just going to hear the top line. Or if we want to just hear the bottom line, we'll just mute the first one, second one. So there's really some interesting possibilities when you get into doing multi-part music with ABC. The other example that's in there is, I think, kind of cool, which is this Bach Fantasia pipe organ. Again, 4 parts. Anyway, you can kind of see, this is one of those things where the highlighting can be really, really handy. You're like, God, I'm trying to find, what is this note in the ABC? I have no idea what it is, and I need to find it because I want to change it. So you click highlighting on, and then just go click on it. And it lights it up over here like, oh, it's this G. I really want that to be a B. You know, so you change it. So, or alternately, you're like, you know, show me where this is show me where these notes are in the, you know, in the tune here. So it lights it up for you. So that can be very, very handy. And it explains in the ABC about where it sets the instruments and all that, so you can play with it. So that's kind of fun. Things can get really, really crazy with this ABC stuff. We're not talking so much about Irish here, but I just want to show you one example of what I mean. Like these are all, I call these like the ultimate demos. These are a collection of, these are in ABC format, and they are originally from MusicXML. You know, the key being here that ABC is an extremely expressive way of doing music, and the combination of it with the different sounds, you know. It's just ABC. Let's see. Oh yeah, James Bond. Anyway, hopefully you're kind of getting the sense for what I'm talking about here, you know, just like. And yeah, this was my favorite ever. And that goes on for about 4 minutes. It's just nuts. These days, there's just an incredible technology that exists to be able to take like a PDF of a tune. These all started out as PDFs that I got from various sources, and I ran them through a music OCR program called PlayScore 2, which is just an app that runs on your phone. And it's able to take the PDF and actually generate MusicXML, which is then I can open in the tool and turn into these things and save as ABC files. So again, ABC is an extremely expressive way of representing music, and I can do so much more than just like, you know, simple Irish tunes. I just wanted to kind of show you there just to kind of give you a sense for just, because this was, to me, it was completely mind-blowing that this was actually possible. Let's just go back to something a little bit more on track here. Go back to, I'll just open up a set of tunes. Hello. And I want to talk about going beyond sort of the basic functionality that I've shown you for the tunebook variation, and that's just talk about. Again, we're almost 2 hours into this, and we haven't even opened up this page yet. So again, I just want to see, are there any questions at this point? All right. Before I go into the mode tools, I do want to just show you that there is a settings dialog here. And the settings dialog is just worth exploring. I won't go through it in detail, but it's worth looking at. It has to do with things like, for example, if you are someone and you know that I'm never going to work with whistle tab or any of these things, I'm just going to be in notation and I don't want these buttons here all the time, You can, for example, turn them off by clicking this checkbox here, and then you can see they disappear. That just gives you a little bit more room on the screen. If you're like on a small device and you like, I don't need all this stuff here, you can click that, and now you're there. If you're on a big screen like I am, and you're working on a very complicated, you know, for example, I open up, let's say I open up, I just find a good example here. You're working on some ABC and it's like, oh, this is really messy and I need more room. You can resize this. You don't have to, you're not limited by the that little tiny text area. You can make it as big as you want. The music tries to get out of the way the best as it can, right? This was a very specific case where someone was working on lyrics and this is how they formatted their ABC. It was very, very spaced out, and they wanted to be able to see it all at one time. So this allows you to do that. So this will let you set the tablature bar below the ABC if you want it or not. The other thing that you want to know is like, well, when I play ABC, most ABC, like if you go into the session.org and you look at the ABCs, you'll see that it's just the ABC. There's no information on what instrument should play here. And you're like, well, you know, by default, it's going to just use a piano, but I really want to be able to have it sound differently, you know, without, I don't want a piano. I want to hear vibes. Every time I play a tune, if it doesn't have something in it, like that already says what the instrument is, I want to hear vibes, and I want to hear a bass sound for the bass, and I want the piano to be the, melody instrument, and I wanted to use that particular sound font. Then if I just, let's say clear this, and we'll just open up, let's open up just some tunes here. So you notice these don't have any instrument set on them. There's no MIDI program. So when I play them now, because I set up vibes as the melody instrument, when I play this, it should be vibes. So those are the kinds of things you set up in the settings dialog. It's like, you know, which instruments to use for playback, how loud you want the volume to be. There are some controls for like how hornpipes get swung, that sort of thing. Off of this, there's also 4 additional settings. One is like what fonts to use for everything. And this lets you set up all the fonts that you want for each item. I've set it up to use Comic Sans. You can actually reset it. The default values would be these. I'm going to just leave mine at Comic Sans. You can save sets of fonts if you have different tunebooks, different font requirements, that sort of thing. Let's see, won't talk about the tablature injection or MusicXML settings. That's more advanced. There's some advanced settings. Only go into this dialog if you know what you're doing. But there are some things here that are kind of interesting. And the one that is most interesting is this roles indicated in the ABC with the tilde, use the custom ABC JS role playback solution. And this has to do with ABC JS. And if you've ever used any, like if you ever played a tune on the session.org, for example, and you played back the Black-Haired Lass, you would notice that even though there's like a tilde on these guys, it would sound like this. Nothing happens for the tilde ornamentation. It means, which really is just an indication to the player. It says, do something here. There is an option on the advanced settings that you can opt in on, which is roles indicated. This guy here, roles indicated in the ABC with a tilde. And if you check that, now when it plays that tune, it'll actually do something with those roles. I don't turn it on by default because it is not a perfect solution. It doesn't sound right on everything. So I figured, well, let people opt in, and it's better than nothing, but it's a very, very difficult problem to solve in the general case. So I figured, well, rather than make it the default, I made it an opt-in thing, but it is available on the settings, advanced settings. Everything else on here you can read about, but for the most part, I would say don't touch unless you really need to. So yeah, just be aware there is a settings page. And again, mostly it's just like whether or not you want that tablature bar. You can set up the spacing between the staffs and sort of thing. Oh, this is something that people do ask for. Left justify all titles and subtitles. If you click that, you'll see everything jumps to the left. This is really handy when you're doing an export of a notes and snippets format, because it will it gives you a little bit more. If you ever looked at like what comes out of some of the older desktop tools, their insipits look more like this with the left justify. That is really nice in combination with probably the first of the things I'm going to show you on the More Tools dialog. So let's see, I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything on these guys. No. Oh, one thing too is if you don't think you're ever going to use some of these features, anytime you see one of these little controls in the corner, it generally gives you an option to like hide features that are on that dialog. So now the dialog only shows the things that you actually use. I was thinking, there's so many controls. It was getting really busy in some cases, and a lot of this stuff is sort of optional fluff in many ways. So I give you options to turn off some of the more fluffy features. But I did want to show you. So I've got these now left justified because I've set the left justify all titles and subtitles here. A lot of times people want to number their incipits. So I'm going to grab a snapshot and I'm going to go to More Tools. And the first thing we're going to look at here is you can see there's a whole bunch of features, and these all have to do with adding these actually modify the ABC in various ways to either inject more information or to automatically put in like all of them. Like for example, if you want to set all of the tunes in a tune book to play with a particular sound, you can take care of that in this dialog. This is kind of a utilities dialog where you can play with stuff. But for example, if I wanted to put tune title numbers behind all of those tunes, basically two options here: add numbers to tune titles. When you click that, you can now see they all have numbers behind them. Okay, and you're like, well, what if I reorganize them or I delete them? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into Add. I'm going to change the order of the tunes. I'm going to reorder them. Now all the numbers are all screwed up. And so now the numbers are all screwed up. So we look at like, oh, they're not in the right order at all. And I'm going to make it even worse. I'm going to delete some of these tunes. I'm going to delete Luck Penny. And I'm going to delete Longford. I'm going to delete that. Okay, now we're really in a mess. You're like, Michael, I've completely screwed up the order of the tunes. It's really easy to fix. Go back and inject tune title numbers. Just re-inject them. It'll fix it. Now they're all in order again. Hasn't changed the tune order. It's just regenerated the titles, made the numbers all right. And now when you do the note incipits, they've got the numbers behind them. Or if you do the text incipits. So now you can say, okay, everyone, we're going to play, we're going to play tune number 27, right? It's got the numbers behind them. So that's kind of handy. So that's the first of the features on the More Tools. I'm going to go ahead and go back to just standard justification on tunes. So I'll just kind of walk through what some of these things do, and again, some of them are kind of esoteric. Again, they're all detailed in the manual. We won't go through all of them, but for example, a really common one that you might want is if you're breaking up tune books. So I've got a tune book here, and I want to break it into up into sets. So I do that using a thing I call section headers, and the idea is that you click before the tune that you want to add a section header. And you go into More Tools and you say Inject Section Header. Where is it? There it is. And we'll just call this Set 1. And you can see it's added just a little 2-line bit of ABC at the top, and it's put in a little marker there. And then we'll go down here and we'll inject another one. We'll just say inject section header. You could do this by hand too. It explains how to do it. If you're not sure, you can just you can click on the help. But we're going to say set number 2. And it's put in that little marker. And we'll just go to the last set here. Okay, so you could just copy and paste these. I mean, there's nothing special about them. They're just these 2-line little snippets. The fact that they have a star at the front of it tells my tool when it creates the PDF to treat it specially. So we have these 3 sets here, you know, separated. And what happens is when you generate the PDF from these, and I'm going to, again, this is one that had some manual page settings. I'm going to take those out. These are okay, so I'm going to just, when I generate the PDF from this, we'll go ahead and add some features here. Fine. And generate, let's see. Yeah, we'll just do multiple tunes per page. That's fine. We'll generate a PDF. It'll handle those section headers, especially in the tunebook and in the table of contents and in the index. So it looks very much like before, but now you can see we have the sets broken out in the table of contents. So we can just click on that. It takes us to that set. And that's just a very handy way to break up sets in your tunebooks. In the index, all of the sets end up at the top. So you can just go right to the set from the index. So that's one of the features that's available from the more tools is inject section headers. And again, you can just do them manually. They're just a simple format, and it explains that in the manual. The next one is kind of interesting. Inject MIDI programs and volumes. This allows you to create if you want to have a particular sound on each tune, you can just select it here and click OK, and it'll actually inject. So, for example, if I wanted to make all of the tunes have the acoustic piano, I could say inject all tunes. If you're not sure, these all have drop downs that have all of the instruments available, so you can just pick them. If you want to learn more about that, you can click this link here. It brings you to this lovely chart I put together that gives you all of the information on all of the available MIDI sounds. We'll say inject all tunes. And if you look here, you'll see every tune now has a bunch of stuff added to it that explains that when you play this tune, I want you to use this sound font and this this particular set of sounds. Let's go ahead and restore from our snapshot and get us back to where I can't say enough about how useful snapshots are. So there's just a whole bunch of features in here like that. The other one that's kind of fun that I highly suggest playing with is if you go into more tools, there's a whole bunch of stuff down here that are called explorers. And we'll talk about the tab injection and all that. That's kind of very esoteric and very specialized, but we'll talk about that at the end. The explorers are kind of fun. The idea is that you're like, well, I've got this tune, but I really don't know what sound I want for it or what sounds best. And so this lets you try out different sounds. So by default, it's going to just, if there's already some sound set on the tune, it'll load this up. But this, because there weren't any, it's just loading up. Remember I set up those defaults, the vibraphone, the bass, brought those in. So if I play it now, I'm going to hear those. Matter of fact, let me do something more interesting here. Let me get one that actually has some chords. I'm going to just add the hornpipe. And so, because it has chords, because we want to be here the bass and chords. So we'll go into MIDI. We'll go into MIDI Instrument Explorer. We'll just play this. You're like, well, I really want to know what that would sound like if I used a vibraphone instead. So we'll pick the vibraphone. We'll just reload the tune with the instruments. Play it again. But I want a honky-tonk piano for the chords instead of that standard piano. Try it. Or I don't like that synth bass. I want just like an acoustic bass. Or let's say we'll say I like that, but I I kind of did like that piano in the first place. We'll reload it again. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I want. So now you can click this inject instruments and volumes into the ABC, and it's actually gone into that tune. If you look at that tune now, Alexander's, you can see now it's added that information to the ABC, and we'll go ahead and play it. So it's kind of crystallized that. It's actually added to the tune. It's not part of the tune. So the Explorer is a really nice, the MIDI Instrument Explorer is a really nice way to play around with the instruments and get them until you find out what combinations you like, and try the different sound fonts, because the sound fonts sound really different. Like the Fluid sound font sounds very different than the Fatboy sound font. So it just gives you a way to kind of play around with the different instruments. The other explorers here are very much in the weeds. The one that's really kind of fun is the Swing Explorer. And one of the holy grails of ABC playback has been, and one of the biggest problems with Irish music and ABC is that hornpipes sounded like this until very recently. This is what hornpipes sounded like. And this was the biggest reason that people would reject using ABC, because it sounds horrible for Irish music. And the reason is because there was really no concept of swing. So I have the ability to do swing inside my tool. And so by default, the tool will know if you have a hornpipe. If a tune is marked as a hornpipe, if it actually has hornpipe in the rhythm, and that's this R tag. I'll just show you here, this R tag here. If that says hornpipe, then my tool will automatically swing it by default. So, for example, you just play a hornpipe. And there's actually a directive that you can add to any tune that will add swing to it. So, for example, I have a directive here that is called swing, and essentially what this says is how much you want the pairs of eighth notes to kind of steal from each other by default. 0.25 is really, really nice for kind of a hornpipe sound, but we'll make it extreme. We'll make it 0.5. You'll hear it sounds very different. Right? Or you can even make it like negative. Make it this will make it sound like a Scottish, like a snap. So there's a lot of control. They're both positive and negative. So, for example, if you have a tune, I'll give you an example. Like if I'll go ahead and clear this, and I'll add Coolies back. And Coolies. So here's Coolies with no swing. And here's Coolies with a little bit of swing. And here's Coolies with too much swing. Oh, yeah, it's not too bad. Here, we'll take it up a notch here. Anyway, the idea being that you do have some control over the swing, and the swing is done on a per tune basis. The only thing that I default swing on is hornpipes. If it can tell that it's a hornpipe, it will automatically swing it by this amount that's actually in the setting. So there's this automatically swing hornpipes when playing, and if you always like if you always want your hornpipes played straight, you know, you're not you're doing a bunch of English hornpipes that aren't swung, and you're never going to work with Irish hornpipes that are swung. You can just check this, and it won't automatically swing the hornpipes for you. And if you don't like my selection of the hornpipe swing, you can change this value here. Any value you change anywhere in the tool is saved, and you never have to change it again. You just change it once. But I like my hornpipes automatically swung. So that's how swing is done. Now, what's fun about the swing, the whole swing thing, is if you're doing, let's say, that hornpipe, and you want to play around with the swing. I'm going to just delete the automatic. I put some manual swing in there just to show people they could change it. If we go into the Swing Explorer, this actually lets you play around with those factors. So, so you can, if you're not sure what the swing should be, so like here it is, we're going to play with the default. But I'm saying, well, I want a little bit more swing. You can bump it up, reload it, try it, and kind of dial in the swing. There's some complications involving jigs that you can read about in the manual, just because jigs sometimes have, how can I describe it? They can have pickup notes, and you have to take account for the pickup notes in the swing solution, and there's some information about that in the user's manual. So yeah, the Explorers are fun. Same thing for like grace notes. Grace notes have the same kind of problem. If we're doing, say, Lark in the Morning. You find Lark in the Morning. I've got a version of Lark in the Morning with some ornamentation in it. Okay, we're going to play this. You're like, well, of course, that's what the grace note should sound like. But it turns out that that's more complicated than it seems. So there's actually this concept of controllable grace duration in the tool. And you can set how long those grace notes should be. So for example, here's the default. But maybe you want them to be a little bit longer, because sometimes in different instruments, it just sounds different with a different length. Here, I'll make it extreme, 100 milliseconds. So you can play around with the grace note duration on each tune, and then when you actually find what you want, you can click Inject Grace Duration into the ABC, and it's actually added a little notation here that says, for this tune, I want you to play the grace notes with 100 milliseconds duration. And again, we are getting into the weeds here a little bit, but the idea that between the swing and the grace duration, you have a lot of control. The final one, and I'm not going to go into detail on this, you can look in the manual, is the Roll Explorer. This is a thing that deconstructs Irish rolls, both quarter note and dotted quarter note rolls, that lets you kind of set how the time is divided up and how the notes are allocated between the time slots and all that. And there's a lot of detail in the manual about this, but this allows you to get micro control over the roll execution. And if you're really into that kind of thing, you can play around with that. It's a really, really fun tool, and it was a very interesting problem to solve. Okay, couple of final things. Let me open up. Actually, I can just do the restore. You can see how handy having the snapshot and restore was. Okay, I'll just take a moment just to see if there are any questions. Okay, next level. We'll get into some of these tablature generation stuff. One of the things the tool can do is it can make automatically create tablature for a wide variety of instruments. BC box, C sharp, D box, Anglo Concertina, both Jeffries and Wheatstone style. It can put the fingerings for the notes, not the. You think about mandolin tablature, that tells you which string, which fret. This tells you which finger based on, kind of first position playing. It can do Mountain Dulcimer tab, even this crazy bamboo flute tab that someone from China wanted. But I'm going to just stick with the BC box tab. So the idea with BC box tab is You don't read music, but you have this BC box, and what you care about is which row, which button, and which direction for the bellows, and this will do that for you. So now if you look on each of these tunes now, there is, for every note, there is a number and a direction. And the numbers that are without circles are the C row in the BC box, that would be the inside row, and the numbers with the circles are the outside row. And then the arrow tells you whether it's a push or pull. Push is down and pull is up. And it now created a tune book of BC box tablature instantly. So someone who's, this is how I produce my BC box books, as I click that button and I export a PDF, and now we have a BC box tablature version of it. I'll restore it again. Same thing for Anglo Concertina tab. We actually set up the tab here. Like I know I want Jeffries, I want Crossrow. Crossrow is my style, kind of taken from Noel Hill. You can just inject Anglo Concertina tab, and now we see for every tune, this is like the button number, left or right, the button number on the instrument, and the direction of the bellows. And it's now created tablature for Jeffries Concertina in the Crossrow style for the entire tune book. Actually, let's go ahead and restore. For example, I was talking about the fiddle fingering. So here we're looking at the mandolin tab, but you're like, well, okay, that's nice, but I want to know which finger to use. So now we can go into inject fiddle fingerings. And now you can see it actually, underneath each of the notes, it put the finger, and then if we combine that with the mandolin tab, it will tell you, kind of give you a complete solution for mandolin or for fiddle. Again, this is which finger to use, have nothing to do with frets. And it just goes on and on and on. For the dulcimer players, for the Mountain Dulcimer players, it can pick a number of common Mountain Dulcimer configurations, and it can generate Mountain Dulcimer tablature underneath the notes.
That's amazing, Michael.
Crazy stuff. Okay, so probably the final. So we're kind of getting toward the end here. I say it takes like 3 hours just to walk through all the features of this thing at this point. Here's really getting into the weeds. So this is for shape note. For people who are like shape note singers, it can do shape note injection. So for example, if you're a sacred harp singer and you want the shapes they use, and you want the names of the notes that are sung below the notes, you can select that, and you can see here it's actually put in the shape notes, and it's put in the shape note names below. So it can do shape notes in a wide variety of styles. Again, this is not specific for Irish, but you can see it does. It does a wide variety of stuff, including like just the pitch names. This is similar to just if you want to know what the note names are, it can put those below. This is a little different than than this view, which gives you more like the actual ABC. This actually injects the note names below the notation. Where this gets kind of surreal, and this will probably be the okay, I've got only two more things to show you. One is I'm going to do the tablature injection again. I'm sorry, I'm going to do the Solfège injection. I'm going to use fixed do solfège. Solfège is, your kind of like a sound of music, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And so this is actually put in the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do based on C as the root. This is what's called fixed solfège, with a C being the do. And if we change the instrument that's used for the playback, I'm going to do this just by changing my default instrument to what I call the solfège. So this is in the list of available instruments. I'm going to change it to the solfège instrument. This was an instrument I put together recently. And then when we play this tune, it will sing those notes. Okay, so that's insane, but but why not? Yeah. So anyway, I do want to just show you one last feature here that could be useful in some circumstances. We're going to go ahead and restore from snapshot and get us back to the normal tunes. So the most common usage scenario is creating a PDF tunebook. By far, like 95% of the use of this is the tunebooks. And then, and the thing is once you're in a tunebook, most people, like I found that maybe 90% of the people using this thing are coming in from a tunebook that somebody else created or that I created. So let me like open up one of my tunebooks here. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Oops. I'm going to open up a new tab here, and I'm going to just open up drag a tunebook in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Right. Where is it? Oh, here we go. This one. Okay, so you've like opened up a tunebook. And so most people are just going to be using it this way. They're just going to see a tunebook. They're not going to know it was created in my tool. That's going to be this collection of tunes, and they're just going to have the PDF, and they're going to mostly use it by just clicking on the tunes, and they're going to be in here, and maybe they train on it. They want to learn the tune. They use the tune trainer, this sort of thing. So this is kind of the main use for the thing. This is the main use. Is creating the tune books. The people who create the tune books use the tool. Use all the features I've shown you. But most people are just going to consume it. The thing that the main tool the thing produces are these tune books, and the tune books that have the ability to play themselves. But I started thinking about there are other use cases for these for the output of this. What is the output of this thing? It is the images of the notation combined with the share links that make it possible to play the tunes. Now, I happen to stick those in a PDF tunebook, right? And that's so again, the idea of thinking like the raw output of this thing is the image and a link that allows you to play it when opened in the tool. But a PDF tunebook isn't the only thing that could consume those two items. So for example, if you have a website and you have a bunch of images on your website of tunes and you want to be able to play the tunes from the website, well, my PDF tunebook doesn't do you any good, right? You need those raw images of the tunes. So there's a couple of ways of getting just the raw information out of the tool so that you can use. So for example, if you're a web developer, you're making you're an Irish music teacher, and you're like, that's great about those PDF tunebooks, Michael, but I have this website and it's behind a paywall, and I want to put the images of the tunes on my own pages, and I'm not going to be using PDF, but I do want those images, and I don't want to have to like manually, clip them out of your PDF tunebook and then paste them into my web page. There are some tools, there are some features in the tool that let you get those images and those links out very easily. So the easiest way to do it for a particular tune, if you just have one tune you want it, there is on the play dialog, there is a button that says export audio or image. Now, you can just save any tune as a WAV file, like the playback that you hear, you can just save it as a WAV file or an MP3 file. You just click any of these buttons and it'll just save, it'll generate like an MP3 file that you could then email to your friends of the tune, and it will sound exactly like you heard it here. But if you wanted to get the actual image out, this black-haired lass image out, you could click save as JPEG, PNG, or SVG, and you pick the size, and this would depend on your particular needs. So for example, I could say save as JPEG file, and it's actually saved it. What I'll do is I'll just drag that file over to the browser here, and you'll see that it's just created this image for you. Okay, so it's just saved that on your computer. So that can be a really nice way to just get the image out of the thing, and that combined with the MP3 file, you now have the image and you have the sound. But that's great for one tune. But what if I've got you know, what if I've got all of these tunes? I don't want to have to do that for every one of those tunes individually. So there are some options under More Tools and Export All Audio Images. And this lets you create all of the audio and all of the images for the entire tunebook in one click. So I'm going to, for example, I'm going to click on Export All as JPEG. And it's going to actually walk through all the tunes now. And it's going to export each of those as a JPEG file. So now, sitting in my downloads directory of my computer is each of those images. I'm just dragging them from my desktop over to the browser, so you can see. So you now have those images, and you can set the resolution of these images so that they can be whatever you want. So that allows you to get the raw images out of the tool. If you want to get the audio out for all of those tunes, so you got the entire tune book, you want to send the tune book, but you want to also send recordings of every single tune to your friends, you can click Export All as MP3 Audio. This will ask you how many times do you want each tune repeated. So if, let's say, you wanted them 3 times, and you wanted a click track before each tune, it'll give you like a 2-bar intro, like a click, 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 click before it plays the tune, and it'll now walk through those 10 tunes. And what it's doing is it's doing exactly what you would do manually, except it's automating the whole sequence for you. So it's actually walking through the 10 tunes, it's generating the 10 MP3 files, and in this case, it's just going to play them once. So now we would have all the images and all the MP3 files for all of the tunes in the tune book. You're like, but Michael, that's great, but what I really need is I need the share links as well for the tunes. It's not sufficient to just have the images and the audio. And so there's a couple of things here that are just for developers, which is export all share URLs as JSON. And what this will do, or CSV equivalent, this will actually walk through all of the tunes and very quickly, instantaneously actually generate the share links for all of the tunes. And I just kind of dropped it there. And it's just a big text file that it's very easy to parse in programming to be able to extract all those share links out. So someone who wants to build a website where they have the image, they have the audio, they have the share link, they have now all the information they need to be able to incorporate that into anything they want. Could be a website, could be some service, could be a different way of presenting the information. All right, I'm going to show you one final feature I added yesterday, and then we'll call it a day. And this is, I'm going to open up, this is really insane, but we're going to have some fun with this. So I used to work for a company called SmartDraw, and SmartDraw is a program for making structured diagrams, all kinds of business diagrams, org charts, flow charts, space planning, landscape design, you name it, it was able to do it. And I worked there for almost 10 years. And it's able to do some really interesting things visually with information. And they have a way of being able to create these diagrams from data. So I added a feature which I call the SmartDraw Set List Builder. And this allows you to create set lists. So I'm going to just add, these are like, I'm going to just create set lists 1, 2, and 3, 4, let's say 3, and 4. We'll just add one more here. So I've got all my set list names. I can drag these between the set lists and that sort of thing. This is literally something that I added yesterday. And then I'm going to want to do these as notation, and I'll explain this in a second, how big I want them. I'm going to say export this, and we'll call this demo, Zoom demo. Okay, and what it's done is it's created a SmartDraw file. And again, you don't have to know anything about SmartDraw except that I used to work there. It's a paid service. It's a monthly subscription service, like $9 a month. And now I can actually open that file that was exported from my tool. This is an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about integrations that are beyond just PDF generation. We can look now, and what it's created is it's created this. So here's a visual representation of the sets, and these are, expandable and all that. And it's like, well, that's fine. But what's fun about this is this representation of the sets actually are live. These links work. You can play those tunes. And what's really fun is if I then export this as a PDF. It just takes a second to download it. Come on, SmartDraw. Okay, this is a PDF file. So here's a PDF, visual representation of the set lists. And these can be in snippets or full text. I just happen to pick the notation version of them. And these links are still live. So I can click on Fox in the Town, opens up. So again, this is an example of using the raw output of what my tool can create, and then using that information in a completely different way than just a raw PDF file. And again, is this useful? Maybe, maybe not. What I'm trying to do is just is to create some ability to inspire what might be possible. Again, I'm looking at. I happen to have access to this particular integration. I think it's just the start of the sort of things that people make possible. I wanted to build one to kind of show some completely out of the box thinking of a way of presenting information. Because, for example, you could use the same sort of thing, for example, to show variations in tunes, or for musicology purposes to show some kind of a tree of, here's a version and here's the derivative versions and that sort of thing. Anything is really possible using this kind of technology. So again, that's kind of, again, we're sort of into the far extreme weeds here, but I just wanted to show you the flexibility of the tool in terms of what it can do at the extremes. So with that, that is kind of, that's most of it. That's really most of it. Again, the majority case is just the normal just tune PDF creation, that sort of thing, but it's capable of much more. And I think I've pretty much covered everything. Any questions, comments? If there's any requests for features, I keep a list of them, and if they seem like something I can do and that people will benefit from, I generally will at some point try to add them to the tool if they make sense. So, please send me things if you're interested. So
It's amazing, Michael.
oh, thank you, Peter. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And oh, good, some of you are still left. That's good. Yeah. So any other questions from the
peanut gallery?
Yeah. All right.
So I have a question which you probably went over somewhere, and if
Yep.
so, you can point me to a recording of a previous iteration of your webinar on this or whatever. But what would be really useful for me is, since the most I've ever done with, I guess, ABC is go to thesession.org and look up a tune and, print it out and learn it from the sheet, usually not from the computer screen. So, obviously you've put a tremendous amount of thought, and it's been a real labor of love, but I don't quite know where one would jump onto the, this amazing tool package to be able to do something starting small and then maybe getting bigger as I learn how to
Sure. Well, again, the question is, what problem is it that you're trying to solve? What is your need? Like, what is your need for such a tool? Do you want to be able to create your own tune book? Do you want to be able to work on your own arrangements? What is it you're trying to do? That'll kind of determine how
I
to
didn't know you
start.
could work on your own arrangements. So you could actually take a tune like Austin Tierney's. I just realized is a tune I've heard that I didn't know the name of before that I'd like to learn. So if I wanted to do something with Austin Tierney's, let's say I wanted to turn it into Dulcimer tablature,
Okay.
DAD across the strings, not
Mhm.
up and down one melody string.
Right.
And how would I go about taking
Okay.
it from there? Just
Okay,
out
so
of curiosity.
let's start from just scratch and actually do that. Okay. So, let's I don't know if, sometimes it's always worth to see if a tune is in the search engine. So the first thing I would do if I was looking for a particular tune is you might at first just go into search and add tunes.
Okay.
And I would try the Folk Friend collection. There's two here. You can just pick which one. I would use that one because that's the session.org snapshot.
Okay.
And I would type, let's say Tierney, T-I-E-R-N. We'll just do that much.
Okay.
And we look through here. Okay, here's Austin Turney's. Okay, I would just copy this. Probably be the easiest way to do it rather than just add all of them. And I'd paste it in there. Okay, so now we have a version of Austin Turney's. And so at this point, okay, we got notation. We could play it. We could say, okay, does that sound right? Oh, I'm sorry. I left the instrument as solfège. Let me say it back.
That's a little hard to wrap your mind
Yeah,
around.
yeah. Let me make it just a piano. Sorry, I had my default set back to the solfège.
I'm just chuckling because it was funny.
Yeah, so here we go. So here's. So the first thing, and this is worth learning something about ABC, is you might want to change the tempo, and that uses what's called a Q tag, and that's just the speed, essentially the metronome. So I'll make that 80. I think it defaults to something like 120. Let's see what we get. That's too slow. Make it 120. And you could change the player, but it's nice to just have kind of a built-in speed that's. Okay, so we have the basic tune. So at this point, if you wanted to do the Dulcimer tab, what you would do is you go to More Tools. Now, the first thing I would do is I would always save off. Let me show you. When you add tablature, particularly Dulcimer tablature, because it can't be supported by one of these like built-in things underneath, you have to actually inject stuff into the ABC to generate it. Okay. It's a very messy thing. So what you always want to do is you want to sort of keep the raw ABC of this. So I would say, at this point I would like save it, and I would say, okay, I'm going to just save it. This is just the raw tune. Now I always have that, I always have it to go back to. But I'd also grab a snapshot, and the snapshot what that does is it just saves like a picture. It basically saves where we're at right now in case we mess. If I go in and I delete a bunch of stuff, it's like it's all messed up. I can just click restore, and it gets me back to where I were. It was basically like doing a copy. It's just like doing it's like I call it a get out of jail free card. Okay, so now to add the Dulcimer tablature to this, more tunes, and then you go into Inject Dulcimer tab. More tools, and then Inject Dulcimer tab, and then you pick your style here. Let's say cross string, and you just click OK, and it's done it.
Wow.
Now, but you look at this, you're like, this is unreadable, right? Because it had to actually stick all that stuff in here. Right. So what you would do is you'd look at this, and what you'd want to do is, you can manually mess with that stuff. I would never do that. It's really not meant to be human readable. So I would go back here and I would change it. Like if I wanted to change, like for example, this where it has this like, okay, so if you're trying to find out what things are, you can click the highlighting and say, well, where is this in the ABC? And it's right there. It's that little tilde with the D2. You're like, okay, I really don't want that. What I want is I want a triplet D written out like that instead, okay? Okay, we can turn the highlighting off. So that's a nice way to sort of find, like, well, that note I don't like, I can locate where it is in the ABC. Or vice versa, you're like, well, where is this in the notation? It lights it up over here, okay? Kind of goes both ways. You can leave that on if you want. I turn it on when I need it. And then once you have it once you have your changes, again, I would, grab a snapshot. Again, we saved it originally. I would grab a snapshot just so that I have it before I do the injection, and I would go back into Inject Dulcimer tab. It remembers where you were before. and now it's going to, you see it changed that right here
Hmm.
to represent that. So
Okay.
that's the kind of workflow for Dulcimer tab generation.
Okay.
You know, and then when it does if it were like multiple versions of the tunes, I'm going to just copy and paste, 3 versions of the tune. When it does the tab injection, it does it on all of them, the entire
Oh,
tune book at once.
interesting.
Yeah, so it does all the tunes in the
All the
tune book.
tunes or just all the Austin Tierney's?
No, it'll do all the tunes. Like if I opened up, like here's 16 reels, right? And if I do inject Dulcimer tab, you can see now it's done the entire tune book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is Michael Long aware of some of these changes?
Oh yeah, Michael's been great. Michael's been great. So that's the easiest way to just get started with it. So for example, if we go back to so if you cleared and you had if you start from scratch, like if you just like got done for the day and you loaded up the tool and you had grabbed a snapshot, it's still there. So we can just get back to where we were, right?
Okay.
So the simplest thing is to do is just do that, inject the Dulcimer tablature, and now you can create a PDF. Just export PDF, and we'll just say 1 tune per page, and we'll have no. We'll put the page number down the bottom center, let's say, and we'll get just a simple PDF of the tune now. That it's just going to be in your downloads directory, and then you could give that to somebody else or email it to somebody. I mean, this is like the simplest. This is the most common basic case for use of the tool, and that's really all there is to it. It's just clicking a couple buttons, and
So it's just getting used to it, basically.
it's just getting used to it.
Intimidated.
Yeah. It's just
By
it's a work.
everything.
It's a tool. It's a
Right.
tool with a work. There's a bit of a workflow that you have to figure out that works best for you. But you can see like it wasn't like we didn't have to do very much technical. It was just a matter of knowing that I had how to find a tune. I mean, you could have found it on the session.org. That's the other way to work, is that you do.
So since I'm used to that, what would happen if I did that? I would just
Yeah,
go
yeah.
look for a tune as
Yeah,
usual.
exactly same thing. So if we wanted to do it from the session.org, we would go. So we would like open my tool up. Nothing would be in it. We'd go to go to session.org, click on tunes, type Austin. We'll just say Austin. It
Tierney's.
says Austin Tierney. So here it is. We would go down and look through and say, which version do I want? Okay, I want that version. Click on ABC. Click on copy. Go to my tool, click there, paste. Oh, it didn't get the right. That was weird. Oh, I copied the wrong one. Oh, I picked the wrong tune entirely. There it is. Oh, it just got a different name.
Right.
No, Austin Tierney's. Okay, so there we go. Oh, because it thinks it's called Farewell to Aaron, and I have it in my tune. What happens is in my Tunebase is it'll have that same tune with Austin Tierney's, the Cherry Tree. It'll have it with all those names as well. But we'll go ahead and just copy it, paste it in here. We could change that if we wanted to Austin Tierney's. If we wanted to use that name. And then we could start working with it just like we would. And if we wanted to find a different tune, we could go back to the session.org and we'll search for.
Have you mentioned this on the Have you mentioned this on the session.org? Because I would
yeah.
people would be kind of excited, especially if they're already accustomed to working with the session and ABCs and so on.
Oh yeah, I know people know about it. What's that Carillon that you've been playing? That is it 142?
Carolyn's Cup.
Oh, okay, we'll do that one. Carillon's Cup. That's a good one. So here's Carillon's Cup. Yeah, okay. So we'll take Carillon's Cup, and so again we got from here the search. Then you click on ABC and copy, and then we'll just add that. Oops, sorry. I just add that. Okay, hit the right keys. There we go. Here, Caroline's cup. Get rid of that character there. So we have Caroline's cup. So that's one way. That's a way you can construct, and then you could add the Dulcimer tab,
Okay,
and then export them to PDF.
interesting.
Yep.
Now, say I wanted to do my usual thing, which is, insert the chords
Yep.
in there. How would one go about doing that?
Now, when you see chords, what do you mean by chords
Well,
specifically?
there's of course just labeling, going above the music and putting in D and so
Right.
on. But
Okay,
then if
good.
I wanted to represent what I do, let me grab a piece of tab that I've generated.
Yeah. So you're talking about actually manipulating the tab, like actually creating the visual tab, like you would for the common, like the common tab that would be used for Mountain Dulcimer.
I know.
Yeah.
Here's a good place to get it.
Yeah. I can't actually see it because I'm sharing the screen, but what I can tell you is that's going to be challenging.
Okay.
The-
So
and the
this
reason-
is
Yeah.
this is let's see, Up in the Air that I wrote up some time ago.
Yeah. Hold on a
So
second.
just from looking at a line or two, you can see that it's
Right.
got the notation, and then it's got not only the notes played
Yeah.
across strings, but also the chords,
Yeah.
sprinkled in.
So the chord names are easy to add. Chord names in ABC are you just put the name of the chord in a bunch of quotes like this here. And I'm not going to say these are the right codes necessarily, but you
Okay.
can just very easily add chord names above. That's easy to do in ABC.
Okay.
Modifying the tablature that's injected for the
Probably very hard.
well, it's not that it's hard. It's just that it's going to be very messy, and I'll show you why. When I do the Dulcimer tab, you can see, I'm going to drag this out. You can see that what it's done is that for every single note,
Right.
it's added a little thing like this.
Huh.
And what this is this is the actual tablature for that particular note for each string.
Uh-huh.
Right, the fret number, so like the first string, the center string, and the second string. So you could go to each one of the notes in the and one could you could, for example, I'll give you an example here.
Well,
So
you could. I probably would never get to that
yeah,
point.
no, I would not advise anybody to. So for example, you see the first, like you see this first D here,
Right.
like if I wanted something, I don't know, I wanted it to have something on the second string and then the third thing, I could put in those numbers manually.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible to do that. There's an entry for every single note in the entire tune,
Okay.
but you're working with this kind of stuff,
Right,
which
right.
is,
You have to really get used to that code.
and that code is, it's very specific to how you can actually
You
create
make one
this.
little change and you could screw everything up.
Not so much screw everything up. It's just that, I mean, it is possible. Here's the beauty of it is like, it is possible if you want to stick the chord in right. You can put the highlighting on. This actually may be the way to do it. I haven't really thought about this, but for example, if you wanted to put a chord on this D,
Right.
by clicking on that, it shows you right here.
Clicking on the D in the notation.
Yeah, you turn on the highlighting.
Okay.
And then if you click on any element in this thing, so we'll click on this D,
Okay.
you can see it's lit up, that D and everything associated with it. So you could then so this might not be too bad actually, because then you could put the chord in right there. Right? You just change that one item, and then you're like, well, okay, I want to put in it. I want to put
So
in
you just did that on the notation, not in the code.
no in the code, but the notation, by clicking on the notation,
Shows you what's happening.
what happens when you click on when you have highlighting on and you click in the notation, it takes you right to that part of the ABC for that note.
I see. Okay. So you still have to know how to change the code.
Yeah, but the code is just, you can see the code is quite simple. It's just the three strings separated by, either a dash means open and a number means a fret. And so, for example, if I wanted that to be third fret and fifth fret and 4 and 5, then I just change it there, and you can see it changed it here. So that might not be too, I really thought about that, but that's the easiest way to do it is, you just click on the note here, and then you say, well, wherever you want those chords stuck in, you can do that.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I'd have to learn how to do that, but it looks like it would be learnable.
It would be learnable. You know, it would be interesting.
even if you don't know code.
But you know, it does point to, it might be interesting to have an option to put in all of the tablature markers, but not actually populate them.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because
I
right
can
now,
imagine. I don't know, but I can imagine.
well,
I mean,
imagine if instead of any numbers, all there were just the dashes,
uh-huh.
right? And so then you would go back manually and fill in, you
Right.
know,
So it wouldn't be that much different than using Finale, which is what I used to use when I was making
mhm.
my tabs up.
Yeah, I think I'll add that as an option because that would allow someone to, it would basically give you essentially blank staff music
Uh-huh.
that you can then populate as you wanted, rather
Right.
than starting with a default. Right now it has, you know, it tries to solve the tune based on a particular set of strings. This would just give you essentially staff paper for Mountain Dulcimer.
Uh-huh.
So that's like trivial. I could add that in the next 10 minutes. That's like a really easy thing to add.
You're
Seriously. I
a
mean,
magician, Mike.
I'll do that. I'll do that like
You're a
right after the
magician.
meeting. I'll just add it. Um, so that would be kind of handy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the sort of thing that's possible.
Okay. Okay, well that gives me a sense of you know, what might be possible that I could actually latch onto without
Yeah.
having to learn how to do code
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
interpret code or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good.
if it were possible to start, for instance, what I was just thinking, that the neat thing about what you just did with Austin Tierney's or with Carolyn's Cup would be, it would going across the strings, it would identify where the melody notes are, and then if
Yes.
I could go back in and just put in the chord notes, that would
Yes.
save me, like, well, I mean, to do Finale, first you have to put the notes in, then you
Yes.
have to go back and for each string put in the, you know, the numbers. So I mean that
Yes.
takes quite a bit of time. Where if somebody already had the dots and then took a first pass at the melody notes, then going back in and putting, you know, I mean usually I just do chords on the first beat and the third beat. So
Right. Right.
it would be very small. I mean it would be maybe 20% of the effort that it would have been to create the whole, you know, to tag
Right.
out Austin Tierney's in Finale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So you can just start with this and then just add
Right.
on to it as you need to. Yeah, very, very easy to do. And again, you know, this having this ability to just click on the note, you're like, okay, I want to put my chord on that note,
Right.
and here's where you have to make the change. And then I want it on the third beat, so I just click on that note, and it says, okay, here's where you're gonna need to make the change. And you can stretch this out if you've got room on your screen, you know, if you need to any way you need you know, to sort of see the whole lines.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
that can be helpful. Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah, that's a great. You know, that's see that I've learned something today. You know, it's interesting because I hadn't really thought about how useful the highlighting would be for some of the tablature situations. This
Right.
is the most of all of the tablature injections. This is the one that actually sticks the most in the ABC, and this is the one where that feature I think is most helpful. So this was actually extremely useful having you ask that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I contributed to
Oh,
your
no,
unfolding
fantastic. Yeah,
evolution
no,
of
no,
this.
because I can, you know, if I have other Dulcimer players, I can explain that as a great way to work.
Yeah, that's
Because
amazing.
I always felt it was because it was, you know, difficult to do the chords in any kind of meaningful way automatically. I always felt like it was sort of kind of a limiting first order solution, and now I can see that that it actually is an enabler and an accelerator for producing full arrangements, which I think is really cool to know.
Really exciting. If
Yeah,
you like making dulcimer tab.
yeah, I feel like making Dulcimer tab, but that's okay because people do far weirder things with this than make Dulcimer tab. So, all
Yeah, no,
right,
that's great,
well.
Michael. I'm very impressed.
Well, once again, we've gone almost 3 hours. So I do appreciate, thanks for everyone for hanging out, those of you who stuck in the whole time. And thanks for the great questions, Peter. And I'll see you probably next up in Saratoga
In our
in a
living
couple of
room.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, oh,
I've
can I
got,
just ask a quick question? So
sure.
Wednesday works well for you as an in-person session.
Yeah.
And then, do you just want to? Would you prefer to do your old sod from home?
I'm going to be heading back on Thursday. Yeah, I have to head back Thursday because I'm hosting an event for another, not related to anything I'm doing. I'm hosting an event for an Irish flute group on Saturday morning. So
Oh.
I need to be back in San Diego by Saturday, which means I pretty much leave on Thursday morning,
Right.
unless I want to drive the whole way in one day, which might happen. So, no, I'll definitely see you on Wednesday, and it'll be great.
Yeah, I look
Yeah.
forward to it.
All right.
And who knows? Maybe I'll even get brave and go out to a place like the equivalent of O'Flaherty's or something, where there's a group
Yeah.
of people and I can't
Did you see the announcement from Julie about there's going to be a thing on Tuesday night at a place called, I think it's called The Bank there in Saratoga?
Oh no, I didn't. Uh, I I haven't been getting as many messages from
Okay.
Julie since I
Okay.
haven't been going to O'Flaherty's.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so because they weren't playing at O'Flaherty's on Tuesday,
Oh
they
wow!
are because of there's a
Right,
they because of the hockey situation.
right, right.
She was able to they set up something in Saratoga at I'll forward you the
The
information
bank,
on.
yes, that used
Yeah.
to be a Bank of America.
I figure that's
Long
probably
time
why it
ago.
was called the bank.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh wow!
so I'll see you next
It'll be
in
the
about a week and a
closest Irish session I will ever have gone to, aside from if it's in our house.
half. That's great. All right, see
Okay,
you next
Michael.
week.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
and thank you everyone. And we'll do this all again. And this whole thing has been recorded and will be posted on YouTube in probably later this afternoon or tomorrow. So
That's great.
good.
That's
So
great.
take care, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Michael.
Take care.
Bye bye.